In Marvel, I practiced the method of swallowing stars and amazed the Avengers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Dark Witch Agatha. As the woman slowly descended, her appearance changed dramatically. When she landed not far in front of the two people, she had transformed into a middle-aged woman in black robes who looked to be in her 50s. Who are you, Zoo? Emo looked at the other party with caution. It seemed that the other party was a witch. At present, he was most reluctant to face these mysterious opponents. These people had all kinds of strange means, and it was very likely that he would not be able to deal with them. The woman opposite saw Emo's expression and smiled. Me. I have lived for too long. I almost forgot my original name. Let me think about it. The witch showed a trace of recollection on her face. After a moment, she suddenly came back to her senses and said excitedly, "Oh, I remember. You can call me Agatha." Agatha. Emo's expression changed. He was naturally familiar with Agatha, who could be regarded as the most powerful black magician in the Marvel world. Later, he tried to seize Wanda's power of chaos. Although he failed in the end, he could not deny the strength of his opponent's black magic. Did you cause the disappearance of people in this town? Of course not. To be precise, it was these lowly vampires who did it. Agatha shook her head. My target is only this little girl, but now she is no longer useful to me because there is a more suitable candidate than her. After saying that, Agatha's eyes fell on Emo, and then she attacked without warning. A ball of black energy shot out from her hand and shot towards Emo. Emo flashed and dodged to the side. At the same time, several flying knives flew out of him. The moment he dodged, a purple space the gate instantly appeared on his moving path. Emo had no time to dodge and directly sank into the space gate. Unexpectedly, the location where the space gate led to was only a few meters away in the center of the altar. Not good, Zoo. Emo's expression changed, and he immediately flew out of the altar. But Agatha, who had been prepared, obviously couldn't let him do what he wanted. A transparent energy barrier appeared around the altar, covering him and the altar. Emo clenched his fist and blasted the barrier with all his strength. After a violent shock, a spider web-like crack appeared on the barrier, but the crack was repaired in an instant. Seeing this scene, Agatha's face was not surprised but happy. Sure enough, this body not only has a long life, but also has a strong physique that is not inferior to the Hulk. As long as you occupy this body, you don't have to worry about the aging of your body for hundreds of years, and you can also make up for the shortcomings of the wizard's weak body. Good. Good. Haha. Agatha laughed crazily. Emo heard what the other party said and immediately understood it. Wizards are like mages. Although they are powerful, they have endless means, but lifespan cannot be changed much because of this. Even the supreme mage Ancient One needs to draw power from the dark dimension to extend his life. Agatha, as a wizard, is no exception. Judging from her words, the other party obviously cannot do the same as the Ancient One mage, relying on drawing power from the dark dimension to extend his life, but has adopted another way to extend his life. That is the way of taking over the body. Wait, Zoo. Emo suddenly realized, you mean you, a woman, want to take over the body of man like me? Agatha's laughter stopped. Don't worry, after my soul enters your body, I can transform your body into my appearance. Damn it. You, a woman, want to enter a man's body? It's simply against the will of heaven. The most unbearable thing is that the other party also wants to transform his body into her appearance. At this time, Agatha has begun to take over the body. The dark purple lines on the altar under Emo's feet gradually lit up, and Agatha slowly floated to the top of the altar, uttering a series of difficult and incomprehensible spells. Seeing this, Emo no longer held back. Just now, he was able to crack the shield with just his physical strength. With the blessing of telekinesis, it was not difficult to break the shield point at this moment. A layer of armor was put on his arm. Zuemo's body soared into the sky, and his fist with hundreds of tons of force slammed hard on the top of the shield point. The sound of bubbles bursting rang out. The shield didn't even last half a second, and it turned into purple energy and dissipated. Zuemo rushed towards Agatha in the air with undiminished momentum. Agatha, who was chanting a spell, obviously did not expect this scene to happen. A look of horror appeared on her face, and she was about to dodge to the side. But the speed was too slow compared to Zuemo. Almost instantly, Zuemo's fist was about to hit Agatha. At the critical moment, Agatha's body was full of deep purple energy, and a protective shield was generated around her body again. But the shield shattered almost instantly in Agatha's hopeful eyes. Zuemo's fist hit her without any resistance. No. With a scream, Agatha's old body exploded into a mist of blood. Zuemo didn't have time to relax. A black shadow rushed out of the blood mist. It sank directly into Zuemo's eyebrows where Agatha's body was originally. A book exuding black energy floated slowly. It is obviously the dark book controlled by Agatha. Less than 5 seconds. The dark divine book also turned into a stream of light, following Agatha and sinking into Zuemo's eyebrows. The moment Agatha's soul entered Zuemo's body, Zuemo's eyes became dull. After losing control of his body, he fell from the sky. Fortunately, with his current physical fitness, let alone such a height of only 10 meters, even from a height of hundreds of meters, falling would not cause much harm to him. After Agatha's body was destroyed, the dark energy shrouding the entire hall gradually dissipated. Hill's figure opened the door and rushed in. Seeing Zuemo lying on the ground, Hill quickly stepped forward and helped him up. The girl hiding aside also hurriedly stepped forward to help. What's going on? Extending his hand to touch Zuemo's breath, Hill turned to ask the girl beside him. The girl recounted what happened in the hall before. After listening, Hill's expression changed. Damn it, the witch took the body. From the girl's retelling, she instantly understood the current situation. What to do? What to do? Hill, who could remain calm, no matter how vicious the gangsters were, suddenly became a little flustered. Deal with these mysterious things she had no experience to draw from. Chapter 27, God of Hell's Ithorn. So what if you destroyed my body? There's nothing you can do to stop me. Agatha's soul rushed into Zuemo's sea of consciousness with a triumphant shout. But when she saw the star tower in the center of the sea of consciousness, which seemed to be in another space, her voice stopped abruptly. The aura emanating from the star tower made her hair stand on end. She looked at the star tower and Zuemo standing under the star tower with caution. Boy, you really surprised me. I didn't expect you to have such a treasure in your body. At this point, Agatha stretched out her hand and waved it gently. The dark book appeared in her palm. But everything is in vain. Nothing can stop me. With the dark book in hand, Agatha regained her confidence. Zuemo looked at the pure black book in the other's hand, which was emitting black energy. He knew very well that this was just a copy of the dark book, but the content was basically the same as the original record. Sometimes, being too conceited is not a good thing. I hope you can still be so stubborn later. After Agatha finished speaking, a pure dark energy emanated from the dark book in her hand, which turned into tentacles and wrapped around Zuemo's body. She looked at him with pity. Give your soul obediently. She knew better than anyone else how powerful the dark book was. It not only recorded all the black magic created by Zisung, but also experienced a long time, and after long-term contact with many black magicians, the dark book has become a powerful treasure. With the blessing of the dark book, her black magic release speed and power can be doubled. At the moment when the book released dark energy, the star tower suspended above Zuemo's head seemed to be startled. The 9th level vortex rotating outside the tower shook slightly. A strange energy wave seemed to be transmitted from another space, sweeping towards the position of Agatha and the dark book. The tentacles that extended from the dark book disappeared, as if annihilated the moment they came into contact with this energy. Agatha's expression changed when she saw this. With a wave of her hands, more dark energy overflowed from the book and turned into tentacles to resist the energy released by the vortex. But these tentacles had no way to slow down the speed of the energy. Almost in the blink of an eye, the energy was in front of Agatha. No, with A miserable cry. Agatha's soul disappeared directly in Zuemo's sea of consciousness like those tentacles after the energy swept through. Only the dark book was left floating slowly. Seeing the dark book left in place, Zuemo's eyes lit up. Zuemo was not surprised that the Star Tower could crush the opponent. After all, it was at least a God King level weapon. How could it be impossible for even a witch to resist it? He took 2 steps forward and stretched out his hand, just about to put away the dark book. Although the devouring system has a strong frontal combat capability, it is still somewhat powerless against these magic enemies in the early stage. If he can control the dark book, he will undoubtedly be able to make up for his shortcomings in this aspect. This is a divine book that is opposite to the Trinity Vishandi book. It can be said to be the existence of the top magic in this world. However, just when Zuemo was about to touch the dark book, the Star Tower in the center of the Sea of Consciousness trembled, and the dark book seemed to be summoned by something, turning into a stream of light and sinking into the Star Tower. At the moment, when the dark book sank into the Star Tower in a dark dimension, the Hades Zissing, who was so huge that he could not see the edge of his sleep, suddenly opened his eyes. My power. At this moment, he felt that the power of his body was being rapidly drained away. The speed was so fast that in less than 2 breaths, 1/10 of the power in his body had been drained away. Feel it carefully. Is there a believer borrowing my power through black magic? As the god of the underworld, the creator of black magic, all those who use black magic need to borrow his power to successfully release it. Of course, as a price, after using his power, he will be gradually eroded by his power until the end. His soul is completely devoured by him. And the soul is the source of the evolution of their power. No, Sithan almost instantly rejected this possibility. Even if millions of the most powerful black magicians release magic at the same time, the consumption rate cannot reach this level. No time to think. Sithan hurriedly cast a spell to block the leakage of power in his body. After all, at this rate of energy withdrawal, he can't even hold on for half a minute and will be directly drained. At that time, he, the god of the underworld, will be drained of energy and die because of borrowing the power of believers, and he may become a laughing stock in the world of demons in a moment. Zissing's expression suddenly changed. No, impossible. He let out a crazy roar just now. He tried and found that no matter how he cut off the connection with the other party, the speed of the dark energy loss in his body did not change at all. This was the first time this happened, causing Zissing's brain to crash for a moment. The black magic he created was borrowed from his magic energy. Of course, it was up to him to decide whether to lend or not. But what was going on now? Even without his permission, the energy was pouring out crazily. This is not borrowing, this is robbery. Zissing roared. However, as one of the 4 oldest ancient gods, Zissing calmed down almost instantly. The top priority now was to save his life first. Thinking of this, a huge purple magic circle enveloped Zissing's huge body composed of dark energy. The endless dark energy around him poured into his body like a tide, making up for the energy he consumed. He was currently in the underworld he had created after countless years. This world was full of dark energy that could be directly absorbed by him. With the crazy influx of energy, this barely maintained the flow of energy in his body and kept it in a balanced state. After temporarily stabilizing the situation, Zissing had time to sense the heavens and the worlds. Damn bastard, don't let me find you, or I will burn your soul in the flames of hell for 1,000,000 years. I don't know how long it took. I found you. Zissing made an excited sound. Then his consciousness descended into the world where Zuemo was. With his ability, he could possess the body of anyone in this world at will. After possessing, he exerted 1% of his ability point, but he didn't think that he could deal with the enemy who forcibly plundered his energy in this state. Wanda Mountain, dark temple. On the rock wall carved with intricate patterns, streams of dark energy overflowed. Finally, a black book condensed in the air, which was the original Dark God book. At the same time, a black space door slowly opened in the cave. Under Zissing's control, the Dark God book flashed and disappeared into a space door opened in front. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Two Dark Divine Books. In the underground space of the bar, Zuemo slowly woke up after the copy of the Dark God book was taken into the Star Tower. He tried various methods, but could not take it out. In desperation, the only option is to give up. After all, strictly speaking, Agatha was also killed by the Star Tower, and this was also the spoils of the Star Tower. See Zuemo wake up. Hill and the girl on the side were not happy, but were surprised. Take a few steps back to distance yourself from him. Hill even took out his pistol and pointed it at Zuemo opposite him. Who are you? The witch's soul had entered Zuemo's body, and they were not sure whether the person standing in front of them was Zuemo himself or the witch who had successfully seized the body. Don't worry, the witch has been completely eliminated, Zuemo replied listlessly. Sitting back and watching the Book of Darkness slip away from his hands, he still felt somewhat depressed. How do you prove it's you? Hill didn't believe him because of these simple words, and the muzzle of the gun in his hand did not move away. Well, faced with such a niche language, Zuemo thought for a long time and finally spread his hands helplessly. Okay, how do you need me to prove it? Hill was also stumped by this question. After thinking about it for a while, he asked, what color was my dress when we first met? As she spoke, she seemed to be too hot due to strenuous exercise. She casually took off her coat, wearing only a fitness suspender top underneath. Show off your proud figure without reservation. When Zuemo saw this, he couldn't help but take a few more glances, of course only with admiration. At the same time, I recalled it in my mind. The development of his mental power has made his memory dozens of times that of ordinary people, almost to the extent that he never forgets his mistakes. Black Hill nodded. I believe you for now. After saying that, he turned around and walked outside. We'd better get out of here as soon as possible before other vampires arrive. Zuemo looked at the opponent's back and followed him in 2 steps. You're so careless. Do you believe me? He thought he needed to explain a lot, but he didn't expect Hill to believe it after simply verifying it. Hill turned to look at him. It has nothing to do with the question you answered, she explained as she put her coat back on. Just now you glanced at my chest 6 times inadvertently. I don't think witches would be interested in my figure. Hearing this, Zuemo was stunned and secretly admired in his heart. You can still play like this. You are indeed a professional agent. However, I think Miss Hill, you are still a little hasty. Do you need to verify it a few more times? Several people took the elevator back to the lower level of the bar. After what happened before, the bar was now empty. Just when they were about to leave, in midair next to it, a space door slowly opened. The Dark Divine Book controlled by Sithorn flashed and disappeared into Zuemo's eyebrows. Come again. Zuemo only had time to utter a complaint before he closed his eyes and fainted again. Fortunately, Hill reacted quickly and supported him directly. The rescued girl helped Hill put Zuemo on the seat beside him. After hesitating for a moment, she turned to look at Hill. Did he open a bookstore in his head? Hill was a little helpless when he heard this. In such a short time, a witch and 2 books had entered Zuemo's mind. Maybe, in the sea of knowledge. After the Dark God book entered here, it rushed directly towards the Star Tower without any pause. The closer the distance is, the more clearly Sithorn can sense where his power is flowing. As we get closer and closer to the Star Tower in Sithorn's eyes, the Star Tower is getting bigger and bigger and the distance between the two seems to be getting farther and farther. Damn, what the hell is this? Feeling that the dark book he controlled became smaller and smaller in front of the Star Tower, Sithorn understood that if he continued, he would probably never reach the location of the tower in front of him. He gritted his teeth hard. Sithorn controlled the Dark God book and returned to the original path. At this time, he also clearly understood that the opponent's strength was greater than his own. If he continues, this part of his consciousness will probably be lost here. Noticing that the other party wanted to escape, there was finally a strange movement on the Star Tower. A ray of light shot out from the top of the Star Tower and illuminated the dark book. No, it was as if the ice and snow were melting. Sithorn's consciousness attached to it was instantly erased. The genuine Dark God book that was left behind turned into light again and submerged into the Star Tower. Zuemo on the side saw this scene. I was secretly shocked. Judging from the primitive appearance of the previous Dark God book, it is easy to infer that it is the genuine Dark God book. Judging from the time point, at this time, the person who can freely control the Dark Book is probably Sithorn, the god of the underworld. Is this god of hell so stingy? After reading his pirated books, you came to the door to find someone to settle the score, but what if Agatha has watched it for hundreds of years? Zuemo, who couldn't figure out the key, simply ignored it and went directly to the Star Tower. No, brother, let's discuss it. The two copies are almost the same. You can keep one copy for me. The pirated version is fine. I won't pick it. But the Star Tower in front of him seemed indifferent. Standing in front of the Star Tower, Zuemo tried to communicate with the Star Tower. No matter what, it was a treasure that he recognized as his owner. He had to give his owner some face point, but it turned out that it was either because he didn't have enough face or because there was no intelligence in the Star Tower. He kept chattering in front of the tower for a long time, but there was no response from the Star Tower. Zuemo had no choice but to retreat from inside. Camotage. In an ancient hall, on a circular platform in the center, hanging the most powerful magic weapon in the Supreme Sanctuary, the Eye of Agamotto. The moment Sithorn mobilized the Book of Darkness, the Eye of Agamotto slowly opened, and a burst of magical energy centered on it and spread out to the surroundings. Oops. Leo Wang, who was standing by, changed his expression. Before he could send a signal, a portal opened, and the figure of the Supreme Mage Ancient One walked out. When Guyi came out, he waved his hand gently, and the Eye of Agamotto was automatically placed around her neck. He pinched out a seal in his hand, and a stream of information was transmitted into Guyi's mind. After a moment, Guyi slowly opened his eyes. Leo Wang, who was waiting anxiously aside, finally came forward. What's going on? Ancient One slowly put the Eye of Agamotto back on the shelf. Just now, Emperor, we should sense the aura of Hades in this world and use the Eye of Agamotto to remind us. Hades? Hearing this name, a trace of emotion flashed in Leo Wang's eyes. That Sithorn, one of the four ancient gods who is several times more powerful than Dormammu. That's right. Gu nodded. It's a pity that after only sensing it for a moment, the other party disappeared from the earth again. I don't know whether he left or hid. Speaking of this, she looked at the murals of the New York sanctuary carved on the walls of the temple. Next, I'm afraid the whole earth will be in chaos. Chapter 29 Magical Secret Technique. Underworld. Damn. Bastard. You bandit. The whole world vibrated with the roar of Zison. No wonder he was angry. He took the Dark Book to find the other party to argue, but he didn't expect that this time even part of his consciousness was destroyed by the other party. This also caused some damage to his body. And his connection with the Dark Book has been completely cut off. It was not until half an hour later that the whole underworld gradually calmed down. It's not that Zison calmed down, but just now, the suction force in his body has doubled. Now his speed of absorbing energy is simply not as fast as the other party's absorption speed. If this goes on, he will be sucked dry by the other party soon. From the previous fight, the Dark Book controlled by it has almost no resistance in the hands of the other party. Although it only has a part of its consciousness attached to it, if it is in the other's shoes, it is impossible to solve it so cleanly. This shows that the opponent's strength is definitely above it. It is definitely not feasible to go to the other party to fight. Those with the same strength are called desperate. If he rushed forward, he would be called a delivery man. The only thing for now. He could only try his best to plunder the energy in the underworld frantically. In this way, although the energy in his body was also in a state of deficit, it was estimated that he could last for several months. He could only pray that the other party would stop before he was sucked dry. When Zuemo woke up, he found that he had been moved to the car outside. You woke up. The girl who was rescued on the side looked at him with joy. Zuemo looked around and found that there were only two of them in the car. Where is Hill? Over there. The girl pointed in a direction and said, Following her gaze, Zuemo realized that the bar was surrounded by police cars at this time. Hill was explaining something to the leading police officer. The girl seemed to be very interested in Zuemo point after all. In a sense, this can be regarded as a hero saving a beauty point through the other party's introduction. Zuemo also knew her name, Gemma Simmons. She grew up in New York and is currently studying for a doctorate in chemistry at the State University of New York. This time, she came to Saratown for tourism, but she didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Can I contact you in the future? Simmons asked expectantly. Seeing the other party's expectant eyes, Zuemo was embarrassed to refuse and nodded immediately. Then the two exchanged phone numbers. Of course, just at this time, Hill opened the car door and got in. It seems that only 2 rooms are enough tonight. Zuemo ignored the other party's joke and asked, what about the remaining fish that slipped through the net? Hill shook his head when he heard it. At present, there is no good way. It is unlikely to eliminate these vampires, but I think after this incident, they should be more restrained in the future. Hearing this, Zuemo nodded in agreement. The number of vampires in this world is very large, and it is impossible to completely clean them up. As long as there are a few fish that slip through the net, it won't take long for them to spread again like zombies. However, it seems that in his memory, there is a spell in the Dark Book that can kill all vampires at once. After all, if he remembers correctly, it seems that the origin of vampires is related to the Dark Book. This is also the reason why Agatha can control these vampires. Unfortunately, the Dark Book was taken into the Star Tower. Otherwise, if I learn it myself, I will probably get a lot of points by killing all the vampires at once. I opened them all and looked at the price of the Dark Book. 50 million points. Okay. It is impossible to collect so many points in a short time. Hill drove the car outside the hotel and then took out a confidentiality agreement from somewhere and handed it to Simmons. Sign this and don't mention anything about what happened this time in the future. Simmons took the confidentiality agreement and didn't open it in a hurry. Instead, he asked, I don't know what organization you belong to. Are there any requirements for joining? Can I join? Do you want to join us? Hill obviously didn't expect the other party to ask this question. Yes, I will get a PhD in chemical physics in 2 months. Simmons quickly explained. Hill's eyes moved after hearing this. In addition to agents like them who belong to combat units, SHIELD also needs various research and logistics personnel. The other party's PhD in chemistry is indeed a scarce talent in SHIELD. After thinking for a moment, think about it carefully. If you really have this intention, come back to the headquarters with me tomorrow. Really? After hearing this, Simmons glanced at Zuemo secretly and then jumped up excitedly. But she seemed to have forgotten that she was sitting in the car at this time. After a thump sound, Simmons covered her head and dived down. After a night's rest. The next morning, the 3 of them set out to leave the town. New York, Brooklyn. The White Queen was lazily lying on a recliner in front of the French window on the 2nd floor. It seems that you have been doing well recently. Zuemo walked in from the door and teased. Hearing this voice, the White Queen turned her head. Indeed, there is nothing wrong with it, except that it is a bit boring. Believe me, you will miss this kind of life very much in the next period of time. It seems that I will be useful. Of course. Zuemo nodded and walked forward. However, before that, your ability needs to be strengthened. With a wave of his hand, several pages of paper appeared in his hand, and then he handed it to the White Queen. The above records a method he selected from the exercises in his mind, which is specially used to cultivate mental power, phantom magic. It belongs to the secret method of cultivation of the spiritual mind master and illusionist. It includes forging God technique to temper and enhance mental power, entering dreams that can create illusions, and the method of cultivating soul seal as the foundation of the illusionist lineage. It is also the root of the illusionist lineage's strength, enslaving everything. As long as it is a creature with intelligence, it can be enslaved by the soul seal. In Zuemo's view, they belong to the same spiritual power lineage. The White Queen's telepathy is somewhat similar to the ability of the illusionist, and she should be considered gifted in this. There is no reason not to practice these secret arts. Of course, only half of the content is recorded above, but this is enough for the White Queen Emma to practice for a long time. Emma took the paper from Zuemo's hand in doubt. She didn't think that relying on the content on a few pages of paper alone would make her strength greatly improved. After a few casual glances, her eyes lit up. Her expression gradually became serious. As she watched more and more content, her breathing became rapid, and her face flushed with excitement. Oh my god, this is so shocking. Is everything written here true? After reading the contents written above, the White Queen looked at Zuemo with shining eyes. Of course, I don't want to deceive you with these things, that you can know the authenticity by trying them. Oh my god. The excited White Queen seemed a little incoherent. Then, she hung her hands directly on Zuemo's neck, looking at each other with a smile in her eyes. Dear, there are some places on it that I don't quite understand. Can we go to the room to discuss it? Emma glanced at the French window beside him. I think this place is very good. Chapter 30, God and Demon Atlas, Mind Power Amplification. After Zuemo gave me everything he had to teach me, Emma couldn't wait to enter the room to practice this secret technique. Zuemo came to another villa less than 2 kilometers away. It is Wanda and Pietro who live here. The reason why the White Queen is placed here is also to protect Wanda and the others. Emma relies on her telepathy ability to pay attention to everything here at any time. As soon as he walked into the villa, he saw Pietro doing leapfrog on the grass outside the villa, carrying a barbell. After nearly a month of exercise and the nourishment of ferocious beast meat. Now Pietro's strength has reached more than 800 kilograms, and he is not far away from reaching the level of a quasi-warrior carrying a barbell weighing more than 200 pounds. He still moved with ease, reaching out to wipe the sweat from his face. Pietro inadvertently saw Zuemo walking in. His eyes lit up. He threw the barbell on his shoulders and came up and gave Zuemo a hug. Hey, Zu, you're finally back. Zuemo smiled and patted the other party's shoulder. It seems that you have made a lot of progress during this period. Speaking of this, Pietro showed excitement on his face. It's incredible. It's really amazing. Do you know how strong I'm now? It weighs over 800 and is close to 900 pounds. My running speed is close to 20 meters per second. If I go to the Olympics now, I will be able to get the gold medal. Seeing the other party dancing excitedly, Zuemo smiled softly. No wonder the other party would participate in the Olympics after awakening to the speed force. It seems that his idea is really deeply ingrained. Calm down, Pete. You should know that according to the cultivation method I gave you, you can't even be considered a beginner now. All right. After hearing Zuemo's persuasion, Pietro gradually calmed down. By the way, Wanda is in the back garden, Pietro said, pointing behind him. Zuemo nodded. You continue. After speaking, he walked towards the back of the villa. When she entered the back garden, Wanda was carefully pruning the flower branches with a small pair of scissors. Zuemo walked behind her without even noticing. It wasn't until he put his arms around the other person's waist that Wanda was suddenly startled. When the scissors in his hand almost hit the person behind him, he realized that the person behind him was Zuemo. With a relief, Wanda put down the hand holding the scissors. Sigh. If you do this next time, I can't guarantee whether the scissors in your hand will get stuck. Zuemo didn't take it seriously. Even if the opponent's scissors were really stuck, it would not be able to hurt him. With a gentle wave of his right hand, a bouquet of roses appeared in Zuemo's hand. Wow. Wanda took the bouquet that suddenly appeared in the other person's hand with a surprised smile on her face. It's this magic. Certainly, Zu. Motion admitted shamelessly. Then he tidied Wanda's hair, which looked a little messy. I have wronged you all this time, so I can only hide in this place. After Wanda listened, a smile appeared on her face. No, I think this kind of life is pretty good. I can take care of the flowers and plants every day, and don't have to worry about making a living. I don't know how many times better than our previous life in Sokovia. Don't worry, this won't last long. After resting for a night in the villa, Zuemo returned to the manor sitting in the estate's fitness room. Zuemo first opened the attribute list. Name, Zuemo. Age, 20 years old. Strength, 103,560 kilograms speed. 390 meters/s, psychic power. 408,600 kilograms, special ability, none points. 34,160 points. After a period of time, relying on the spiritual core in his mind, his strength, speed and telekinesis have been greatly improved. After killing hundreds of vampires, his points had risen to more than 30,000 again. However, he does not plan to redeem these points for the time being. By repeatedly using the spirit of vegetation, one can naturally increase one's strength by a large margin, but at most it can only reach the peak of the god of war. It is absolutely impossible to break through to the planetary level. Moreover, it is not suitable to use the spirit of plants and trees crazily to increase strength in a short period of time. Instead, it would be better to accumulate enough points and exchange them for treasures that would allow you to break through directly. There are many similar treasures: wooden spirit, red flame fruit, ningguang grass, heavenly thunder liquid. Any one of them can directly promote his warrior strength to planetary level, and the cheapest wooden spirit only requires more than 50,000 points. There are only about 20,000 points left, and I believe it won't take long to collect them all. Since there are no plans to exchange treasures for the time being, the only way to improve strength is to increase the amplitude of force. Now Zuemo's Thunder Sword cultivation has reached the 3rd level, with a power amplitude of 3. Able to exert twice the strength of its original strength. The amplitude of mental power reached 6. It can control 6 flying knives at the same time, and the power of each flying knife can maintain maximum power in comparison. It is easier to improve mental power. As for the secret method of mental power, he chose a secret method called Illustration of Gods and Demons. The catalog contains a total of 99 maps. Each atlas is a complex 3-dimensional picture of gods and demons with a thought. The 7th atlas appeared in his mind. The further back these atlases go, the more complex they become. The 7th atlas shows a kind of god and demon with a human body and wings. Its entire body is outlined by mental power threads. Zuemo carefully observed it for a moment. The mental power was instantly released, turning into golden filaments, interweaving and combining in the air in front of him. After a while, half of the body of the god and demon appeared in the air. As the mental power threads became more and more, Zuemo felt more and more exhausted. Not good. Finally, at a certain moment, Zuemo could no longer maintain the complex threads in the air, and the entire god and demon phantom composed of mental power dissipated in the air with a boom. Zuemo sighed. After resting for a while, he began to outline in the air again. The sign of successful cultivation is that the entire god and demon's complete body needs to be outlined within 1 minute. The time of cultivation is always boring. In the next period of time, Zuemo stayed in the villa and continued to increase the amplitude of his mental power. After nearly a month, he directly increased the increase of mental power to 12, and the process of constantly consuming mental power like this is also another kind of cultivation. The strength of his mental power is also constantly increasing. Now his mental power has reached 432 tons under the simultaneous control of 12 daggers. The superimposed impact force can reach more than 5,000 tons. It's time to completely solve Layer 1's threat. Zuemo stood on the balcony of the villa, and his figure flashed and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 31 Magneto and Mystique. Mack Island. Located about 300 nautical miles northeast of New York. The island is more than 80 nautical miles away from the nearest land. As a result, there are not many permanent residents on the island. The total population of the only small town is only a few thousand people. On the seashore far away from the other side of the town, there are buildings with moss-covered exterior walls. This used to be a private prison, but it was abandoned more than a decade ago. Since rumors of haunted prisons spread on the island a few years ago, people on the island generally do not come here easily. At this time, in a watchtower of the prison, there stood a mutant with light blue eyes. The mutant's eyes kept scanning the sea in the distance. When he saw a certain direction, his face was slightly stunned. The reason was that in the direction he was looking at, a yacht was slowly heading towards this side. But the man did not care too much. Although the island is located in a sparsely populated sea, yachts driven by wealthy people would occasionally come here. Generally, in this situation, they only need to make a slight move to scare away these wealthy people who cherish their lives. Thinking of this, the man picked up the walkie-talkie in his hand. "Mike, there is a yacht approaching us. Let's give him some color to see." On the shore point in a small wooden house, a dark-skinned young man heard the words coming from the walkie-talkie point. A hint of excitement appeared on his face. "Don't worry, I promise to give them an unforgettable memory." Putting down the walkie-talkie, the man walked out of the wooden house, looked at a small white dot appearing on the sea in the distance, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and after a run up, he jumped into the sea point. The man who entered the water was controlled by the surrounding water flow, and he was carried to the direction of the yacht at a high-speed point. On the yacht point, Zumo and the White Queen sat in the awning on the deck point, each holding a glass of champagne in his hand. "It seems that a small fish is swimming towards us." The White Queen took a sip of champagne and said with a smile on her face point. At the same time, her eyes looked towards a certain position under the water. "Do you mind if I try out my new abilities on him? You can do whatever you want." Zumo's mouth curled up slightly. After a period of practice, the White Queen's illusions have made great progress compared to before. Of course, the most important thing is that she finally condensed the first soul seal. This means that, as long as she shoots this soul seal into the opponent's sea of consciousness, she can get a permanent slave. Even if the opponent's strength is hundreds of times greater than hers, there is no way to get rid of the control of the soul seal. It's a pity that condensing a soul seal is not an ordinary difficulty. Otherwise, it wouldn't take a full month to successfully condense one. This is based on her ability to control the mind point. This soul seal was naturally prepared by Zumo for Magneto point. This is why he had to wait for more than a month point. After all, against Magneto, the number of flying knives he controlled did not make much difference point. Even decades ago, Magneto could easily control submarines weighing thousands of tons. As long as Magneto is prepared, even if he can control hundreds of flying knives, it is afraid that it will not have much effect on the opponent point. His telekinesis mainly plays a role of surprise point, and using the soul seal to control the opponent is also the best way he thought of to deal with Magneto. After thinking the opponent dared to calculate himself, Zumo would naturally not let him go easily, and compared to killing him, this way of permanently enslaving the opponent is more in line with Zumo's interests. The White Queen, who got Zumo's permission, flashed a silver light in her eyes. In less than half a minute, there was an explosion on the water beside the yacht. The man named Mike jumped out and slapped on the deck like a dead fish with a snap. After controlling Magneto, this man can also be regarded as our subordinate. Keeping him may come in handy in the future, the White Queen explained. As the exact implementer, she was naturally very clear about Zumo's plan. There are a total of 138 mutants on the island now. Most of them are mutants below level 3, and only 4 of them have some combat power. They are Magneto, Red Tank, Fireman, and Bone Man. The White Queen Emma told the news she got from Mike's mind. Bone Man, Emma was stunned point. He was not unfamiliar with the first 3 people, but he seemed to have never heard of the last one. Bone Man can continuously generate bone spikes in his wrist, which can be used for throwing and as close-range weapons. The White Queen explained with a smile. Zumo showed a look of surprise on his face. He seemed to have some impression. However, this ability is not much stronger than that of ordinary people holding guns. Even this sequence is considered to be the top combat power in the Brotherhood. It is conceivable how the Brotherhood has declined point. At this time point, the mutants standing in the watchtower saw that the yacht was about to sail to the shore, and Mike, who went to stop it, could not be contacted point. I suddenly realized that something was wrong point. He immediately ran towards the main building, but after running 2 steps, his eyes rolled over and he fainted. On the top floor of the prison, Magneto, wearing a helmet, stood in front of a special cell. Raven, I admit my previous mistakes, but I just ask you to let go of your hatred and fight for the future of mutants with us again. In the cell in front of Eric, there was a woman with fair skin and short hair. The woman sat on the bed in the room and looked out without any emotion. I don't want to be ruthlessly abandoned again after being useless one day. Eric heard this and hurriedly explained. Raven, listen, that's not my intention. You have no ability, and continuing to follow us will only hurt you. But Raven in the cell obviously didn't believe the other party's words. A mocking expression appeared on his face. Really? Then I really misunderstood you. Raven, shut up. Seeing that the other party still wanted to make shameless excuses, Raven roared, and then her face gradually calmed down, staring coldly at Eric outside the door. Kill me, or one day, I will twist your head off your neck. As she said, the skin on the surface of her body flipped, and finally turned into the appearance of a middle-aged man. Your mother died in my hands. Don't you want to avenge her? You, Eric, watched Raven turn into the appearance of Black King Zyro, and kept mocking himself. He suppressed the anger in his heart. Raven, one day, you will understand that everything I do is for the continuation of mutants. After saying that, Eric left with a wave of his sleeves. Misty Craven in the cell regained her appearance, looking coldly at Magneto, who disappeared in the corridor. Just downstairs the figure of the fireman came up. Eric, long time no see. Chapter 32. You know nothing about power. Sure. Magneto looked at the approaching yacht with an uncertain expression on his face. The other mutants stood 10 meters behind him. You know, he has found the White Queen several times before and asked her to join his brotherhood. After all, the only thing missing from his brotherhood was a telepathic mutant like the White Queen. If the other party joins, many of your ideas can be easily realized. But these times, without exception, they were ejected by the other party. Now that the White Queen came over on her own initiative, he didn't think it was because she agreed to his previous request. However, he was not worried that the other party would be detrimental to them. After all, although his abilities have not fully recovered, there is nothing to worry about, just relying on the part of the strength he has recovered now. With Black Emperor Zyro's helmet that can isolate mental power, he is not afraid of the White Queen's psychic ability at all. Even if the White Queen controls all these mutants, he is confident that he can handle it. After all, among the remaining people, the strongest one is Red Tank. And Red Tank, like him, is immune to the opponent's psychic abilities. The advantage is mine. Soon, the yacht docked on the shore. Unexpectedly, 2 people got off the boat, and the first person to get off the boat was a young man. The White Queen, whom he valued very much, was behind this young man. Who is this person? Seeing Zuemo walking in front, Eric looked doubtfully at the White Queen behind him. However, the White Queen had no intention of introducing her. Zuemo, who was standing in front, had a chuckle on his face. Mr. Eric, I heard that you are very short of money and wanted to get my support, so I came here to take a look. When it comes to investing, you have to let investors see the project and the benefits. After hearing what Zuemo said, the expressions on the faces of everyone behind Magneto changed at the same time. Some time ago, I was thinking about how to force the other party to give up my family property obediently, but now the other party came to the door. It was obvious that the other party was not a good person. The expression on Magneto's face, who was standing in front, did not change at all. He walked forward into steps and got in front of Zuemo. Boy, don't think that with Emma's support, you can show off your power in front of me. Hearing this, Zuemo had a gentle smile on his face. Oh, so in Mr. Eric's opinion, does this count as showing off one's power? Then, what is this? As soon as he finished speaking, Zuemo kicked out his right foot like lightning. Magneto didn't have time to react, and he felt a pain in his stomach, and a strong force came from him. After knocking over several people behind him, he hit hard against a coconut tree not far behind. After a body bounce, he fell to the ground. A trace of blood spit out from his mouth. Caught death. Seeing Zuemo take action, the Red Tank standing aside rushed towards him. Pyro Allardyce, who originally wanted to take action, extinguished the flame in his hand. After seeing this scene, turned around and ran towards Magneto. Zuemo looked at the rushing Red Tank, raised his right hand. A layer of vibranium armor appeared on his arm, and slowly made a fist. Diamondization. He turned to Emma and reminded her, then turn sideways and punch. 3x strength increase. Boom. The fist collided with the shoulder of the rushing Red Tank. 300 tons of power exploded instantly. After a meal, the Red Tank's body exploded into tens of thousands of skin fragments on the other side. After Magneto was helped up by Pyro, He didn't have time to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth and suddenly distanced himself from him. He wasn't sure whether this was the real Pyro himself or the Pyro controlled by the White Queen. If the other party took off his helmet when he was not prepared, he would undoubtedly become a piece of meat on the White Queen's chopping board, at the mercy of the other party. Pyro's face froze when he saw Eric's actions. Sorry, Allardyce. I have to be on guard. After all, you have just been controlled by the White Queen without you noticing. Pyro Allardyce had an ugly smile on his face. I see. As soon as the two people finished speaking, with a loud noise, a metal helmet fell at their feet. Only then did the two of them look towards Zuemo's position. Seeing the hell scene with blood everywhere within a few dozen meters in front of each other, the expressions on the two people's faces changed drastically. A series of screams came from the crowd of mutants, because they were right in front of Zuemo. Their bodies were almost covered in shreds of red tank skin. Although each of these people has at least a few human lives in their hands, this is the first time they have encountered someone so cruel. No, the devil. He is the devil. After a female mutant shouted, she ran away with a nervous breakdown. It seemed to have caused a chain reaction. Shouts of collapse sounded one after another. More than 1/3 of the mutants collapsed directly under the stimulation of the scene before them. One by one they scrambled to escape towards the rear. Magneto watched these mutants flee one after another, and the expression on his face gradually calmed down. You leave first and leave the affairs here to me. After giving instructions to the Burning Man, he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and slowly rose up. Not killing me directly would be the stupidest decision you have ever made in your life. Magneto, who was floating in the air, said coldly. Then he slowly spread his hands, and the surrounding magnetic field changed dramatically under his influence. In less than a few seconds, a powerful magnetic circle formed around him. After ensuring his own safety, his eyes fell on the White Queen behind Zuemo. Emma, although I don't know what benefits the other party has given you, it's still too late for you to choose to give up on him and join the Brotherhood. The White Queen smiled and shook her head. I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. Hearing the other party's rejection again, Magneto's expression turned cold. It seems that you still don't understand the situation clearly. After I deal with this kid in front of you, you will change your mind. At this time, Zuemo on the side also looked away from the system panel. Unexpectedly, just by killing one red tank, he gained more than 20,000 points. Right now, he was only about 3,000 points away from redeeming Muajing. It seems like you think you've got a chance to win, Zu. Emo raised his head and looked at Magneto in the sky, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Magneto looked at Zuemo calmly. The physical strength is limited after all. Only being able to control the power of nature is the best way. You know nothing about my power. As soon as he finished speaking, within 1 kilometer of the surrounding area, countless metals flew slowly off the ground under the control of the magnetic field. Next, I'll let you clearly see the gap between the two of us. Chapter 33, Magneto, the Man of Scenes. At the moment, when Magneto exerted his strength, SHIELD headquarters, a piercing alarm sounded. Nick Fury hurried to the operations command room. Who can tell me what happened? Coulson shook the tablet in his hand lightly, and the picture on it was directly switched to the huge screen in the operations room. The picture was exactly the situation on Nack Island. Director, Magneto seems to have a conflict with someone else. Zoom in the picture. Nick Fury gave an order, and the distance in the picture was shortened. But now the island is under the control of Magneto, and is completely shrouded in a strong magnetic field. Except for seeing the vague figure of Magneto flying in the sky, the specific situation inside can't be seen at all. Director, although the conflict occurred on the east side of Nack Island, if it goes on like this, it is possible that it will affect the residents of Nacktown. What are you waiting for? Contact Professor as possible. He knew very well that it would be very difficult to rely on these ordinary agents of SHIELD to deal with a powerful mutant like Magneto. Unless some weapons of mass destruction are deployed. But if these weapons are used, it is easy to make things out of control. Thinking of this, he became more eager to form a special emergency team. Xavier School for gifted youngsters in a classroom. Just like what I usually say, Professor X, who was teaching children in a wheelchair, paused. He slowly turned his head and looked at the door. Sure enough, a moment later, Beast Hank pushed the door open. Professor, something happened. A few minutes later, a fighter plane slowly took off from the academy. Inside the fighter plane, damn, it seems that the antidote developed by the government through Jimmy is not very reliable. Storm Ororo, who was controlling the fighter plane, complained. Jimmy was the boy who could incapacitate the mutants around him. After being rescued, he stayed in the mutant academy. Wolverine Logan, sitting in the cabin, held a cigar in his mouth. I've said it before, I should have crushed that kid's heart at that time. He was born in 1832, nearly 200 years ago, so it's not uncommon to call Magneto like this. Moreover, after several fights, due to the adamantium alloy in his body, he was almost completely defeated by Magneto's ability. Every time he met Magneto, he could only let him do whatever he wanted, and naturally he didn't have any good feelings towards him. Okay, Logan, now is not the time to discuss this, Professor X said solemnly. Now, we should consider how to stop the other party. Beast Hank adjusted his glasses, hesitated for a while, and took out a plastic pistol from his backpack pocket. Do you want to shoot the other party again? Buy it. Logan moved his, but away from the other party. To him, this thing is almost no different from poison, and I'm afraid one shot can kill him. Why? Do you still have this thing in your hand? Hank spread his hands. This was saved from the last war. I think maybe one day we can use it on Mac Island. Zuemo looked at the flying metals around him. There was a hint of amazement in his eyes. The title of the scene man is indeed well deserved. The ability has not yet recovered, but it can cause such a large-scale impact. In the air, Magneto waved his right hand gently. Countless metals gathered together in the air and soon formed a huge monster. Conservatively estimated, the weight has reached thousands of tons. Magneto looked at Zuemo on the ground with a smile of a winner on his face. I don't know if you can withstand this blow with your strength, Zu. Emo didn't care. The reason why he didn't stop the other party was that he was sure to defeat the other party. Mutants like Magneto, like wizards, are indeed strong enough to control metals. It is so strong that, even if he breaks through to the planetary level, it is difficult to completely suppress the other party in telekinesis. But he also has a huge disadvantage, which is his body and reaction ability. Even with Zuemo's current physical fitness, at full speed, with his flexibility, as long as he doesn't carry any metal objects, the opponent can't hurt him in a short time. As long as the opponent is within the coverage of his telekinesis, it is easy to control him. Magneto's helmet is his best weapon. Looking at Magneto floating in the air, Zuemo slowly stretched out his right hand towards the opponent. You are too happy too early. As he said, he gently clenched his right hand. The moment he saw Zuemo's action, Magneto realized that something was wrong and hurriedly controlled the huge metal block in the air to smash it towards the opponent. Unfortunately, it was still a little late. As Zuemo's palm closed, Magneto felt a sharp pain in his head. The helmet on his head that isolated the psychic power instantly turned into a shrinking cage. Damn, how is it possible? Magneto's face changed, and he hugged the helmet with both hands, trying hard to take it off his head. But obviously everything was in vain. Under Zuemo's telekinesis, the neck area under the helmet has shrunk and become as thick as the neck. The helmet was made by Black King Zero. In order to guard against Magneto, the material does not contain a trace of metal. This also means that he has no way to control the shrinkage of the helmet by magnetic force. As Zuemo's telekinesis increased, Eric felt that his head was about to explode. Boy, you won. We can sit down and talk. Looking at Zuemo below, he reluctantly suppressed the anger in his heart. His life was in the hands of the other party, so he had to give in. But he secretly made up his mind that, after getting rid of the current predicament, he must tear him into pieces. Talk about you. Zuemo had no intention of talking to the other party, but instantly increased the telekinesis on the helmet. He was controlled, and still acted high and mighty. He did not intend to talk to himself, but was just forced by the situation. Moreover, throughout Magneto's life, He has never been a person who keeps his promises, and compared to promises, Zuemo believes more in the reliability of the soul seal. As the telekinesis increases, the pain quickly overwhelms Magneto's consciousness. Finally, after the helmet shrinks to a certain extent, Magneto screams and faints. After losing control, the surrounding magnetic field becomes chaotic in an instant. All the metal flying in the air also fell to the ground, including the huge metal aggregate controlled by Magneto. Although Zuemo's telekinesis is not enough to lift the metal block, it is not difficult to push it in the air driven by mental telekinesis. The metal block draws a parabola and falls directly into the sea in the distance. Then the telekinesis controls Magneto's body and lands in front of the White Queen Emma. Zuemo gently waved his right hand, and the helmet quickly returned to its original state and fell off his head. The rest is up to you. Chapter 34 Mystique joins. The silver light in the White Queen's eyes slowly faded. Of course, nodding, she pointed at a group of mutants who were walking slowly with dull eyes. These are the mutants you asked me to select, and the crimes they committed are enough to spend their whole lives in prison. Well done. Zuemo praised, and then his eyes fell on these mutants. While he was dealing with Red Tank and Magneto, Emma began to use her psychic ability to read the memories of these mutants. The purpose is to select those mutants who have done all kinds of evil. For Zuemo, the only function of these mutants who are not even level 3 is to turn them into points. Zuemo killed these people without any burden. Several flying knives shuttled among the mutants controlled by Emma like lightning. In less than 10 seconds Zuemo gained more than 20,000 points again. The White Queen also began to perform soul seals looking at Magneto, who fainted on the ground. The silver light in her eyes lit up again. And in 2 breaths, it became stronger than ever before. After the light reached its strongest point, a light blue mark shot out from her forehead, and after a flash, it sank into the forehead of Magneto on the ground. A moment later, a line flashed on his forehead, and then disappeared again. At this time, the White Queen also slowly opened her eyes. Success. Of course, the White Queen nodded excitedly. This feeling is simply too wonderful. I can easily feel any thoughts of the other party, and even control any of his decisions. This is completely different from the previous superficial control. Zuemo nodded. He naturally knew that the control of the White Queen and Professor X before, in simple terms, was like temporary possession, and they were forced to requisition the other party's body. And the control like the soul seal is a deeper level, directly controlling the other party's soul. Magneto will still retain his consciousness and will only obey her orders unconditionally. Even if he is asked to die, he will execute it unconditionally. Then, wake him up, and we should leave. As he said that, Zuemo grabbed one of Magneto's legs and threw him directly into the sea water beside him. Looking at Magneto, who fell into the water with a plop sound. Actually, I can wake him up directly, the White Queen explained in a low voice. Really? Now it seems that there is no need. In a moment, Magneto's figure floated up from the sea water and slowly landed not far from the two of them. Looking at the White Queen and Zuemo with complicated eyes at this time, his hatred for the two of them had disappeared completely. The White Queen glanced at each other. Eric, wait for us on the boat. Okay, Master. Eric bowed his head and responded, picked up the helmet on the ground, and walked towards the yacht point. After performing the soul seal, his helmet was completely useless in a way. The soul seal is not only a means of control, but also a kind of protection. The soul seal of the White Queen will also protect Magneto's brain from being invaded by other telepaths. After all, this is a secret technique that has been gradually perfected by countless powerful people and spend countless epochs. Zuemo doesn't think that anyone in this world can crack it. At least, not on Earth. After Magneto entered the cabin, 7 or 8 figures walked out of the woods in front of the two. These are mutants selected by the White Queen, who are still useful to them. Among them are naturally Fireman and Raven, who was previously imprisoned in the cell. After sensing Raven in the building, Emery controlled Fireman and asked him to bring Raven out. I hope you can keep your promise. After Raven said to Emma, he took the lead and walked towards the yacht. Zuemo looked at this scene in surprise. Emma hurriedly explained, Mystique, I think you should have heard of her name. Believe me, she is very useful to us. Zuemo nodded. Of course he had heard of her name. In the previous life, this Mystique was praised as the woman that men wanted most, no one else. After all, her ability is to change into anyone's appearance at will. Those who understand will understand the benefits of getting her. Of course, the great effect that the White Queen said is definitely not this effect. Zuemo also mentioned to the White Queen that he plans to establish an organization dedicated to hunting down evil people. Although she doesn't know the purpose of his doing this, the White Queen doesn't care about this at all. In her opinion, since Zuemo intends to do this, she only needs to execute it. And Raven's ability is very suitable for assassination and spying. Thinking of this, Zuemo asked in confusion, "So, what did you promise her?" The White Queen smiled. "It's not a big deal. The person she hates most now is Eric. I just promised her that she can torture Eric for an hour every once in a while until she calms down." Hearing this, Zuemo was stunned. Sure enough, Emma is not a soft-hearted person who can control the Hellfire for such a long time. Magneto has the control of the Soul Seal. Even if he tortures once a day, he doesn't have to worry about his rebellion. Letting Raven vent is not a loss. Let's go. Professor X and the others should be here soon. Zoo. Emma looked at the time and walked towards the yacht. First, the White Queen looked at the island behind her. Her eyes flashed, and after deleting the memories of the remaining mutants on the island, she followed Zuemo's footsteps and boarded the yacht. Less than 10 minutes after the yacht left, a fighter plane slowly landed on the island. Soon, Professor X and his men walked down from the fighter plane. Oh my god. Looking at the bodies of dozens of mutants on the open ground, Iceman Bobby exclaimed, "We are late." Professor X closed his eyes and sensed for a while, then spoke. Originally, according to his ability, even in the X Academy, this island was within the sensing range of his psychic ability. But from beginning to end, he had no way to sense the consciousness of anyone on this island. In short, in his perception before, there was no human being on this island. But the situation was obviously not the case. Obviously, a psychic like him interfered with him. Now as the other party left, he quickly invaded the consciousness of the surviving mutants. However, as he expected, these people had no memory of what had just happened. Storm looked at the destruction of almost 1/3 of the island. It seems that Eric has encountered a strong enemy. I want to know where he is now. I can't wait to teach him a lesson. Logan walked to Professor X with the plastic gun he took from the beast in his hand. He is not on the island now. Eric should have been captured. From the current situation on the island, Professor X easily came to this conclusion. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Death Island Plan. Zuemo didn't care about Professor X's speculation. He was sitting on the cruise ship at this time, listening to Eric's plan to create a mutant kingdom. According to him, the reason why he wanted to get a large part of the funds by any means was to establish a mutant kingdom. The location has been chosen in an archipelago in the Atlantic Ocean. Of course, the actual operation may not be as simple as imagined. Construction can be done slowly, but you must first have your own defense force. So he has found a channel from the Bear Country and plans to buy a few mushroom bombs after a series of failures. Eric has realized that relying solely on brute force seems to be unable to achieve his wishes, so he plans to take a roundabout waypoint. After listening to the other party's grand plan, Zuemo couldn't help but admire Magneto's persistence. After careful consideration, Zuemo felt that, although Magneto's idea was a bit naive and unlikely to be achieved, it would be a good choice to set up the organization's headquarters on the archipelago. Besides, the island has been bought by Eric in some way. Located 1,000 nautical miles east of the United States, it is called the Death Islands. The Death Islands are located on the route from the United States and Maple Leaf Country to Europe. Because of the dense reefs near the archipelago, a natural shipwreck death zone has been formed nearby, hence the name. The main island of the archipelago is more than 2,000 square kilometers, which is enough to build various facilities on it. Take the yacht. Zuemo and his companions drove straight to the east, A few hours later, the yacht has reached the range of the Death Islands. With Magneto's control, the yacht docked smoothly on the main island point. The main island is an oval in shape point. The island is lush with trees, and several houses made of pure metal have been built in the lush jungle point. Obviously, these are all Magneto's masterpieces. Entering the metal house, what comes into view is a dozen piles of US dollars as high as a person. These are all the funds I have collected in the past 2 years. Apart from the cost of buying the island, these are the only ones left, a total of 1.6 billion US dollars. Zemo and the White Queen did not change their expressions, not to mention that Zemo has a fortune of hundreds of billions. Even the White Queen, when she was in control of the Hellfire Club, the money in her hands was in the tens of billions, so she would not be moved by these tens of billions of US dollars. Zemo stepped forward and picked up a stack of US dollars. Obviously, thanks to Magneto's ability, the room is well sealed, isolating the moisture outside point. Since it has been decided to build a base on the island, it is natural to prepare a lot of work. The buildings on the island are easy to say. Before buying the island, Magneto had already investigated that there are still a lot of metal mines under the island. With his ability, it is easy to build a steel casting base on the island point. The rest are scientific research and logistics personnel point. This is also simple. Recruiting is too troublesome. It is better to capture a group of people from those underground organizations. They only need the White Queen to brainwash them, and they can become the most loyal subordinates. Throwing the stack of US dollars in his hand back again. Zemo looked at a girl with twin ponytails standing behind him. This girl was one of the mutants they brought back. Her abilities were nothing special, but her movement speed was 3 times that of an ordinary person. But she also had another identity, a well-known hacker on the internet. Shadow. Her most brilliant achievement was that she had once hacked into the network of S.H.I.E.L.D. and changed Nick Fury's profile picture to a photo of a black boiled egg. Shirley, I'll give you the approximate locations of several underground organizations. Can you determine the specific coordinates of their bases? Shirley patted her private airport confidently. Of course, no problem, Zemo nodded with satisfaction and then turned his eyes to Misty Craven. Record all the information you know about the Sentinel robot headquarters. As a base, the island naturally needs to increase some defense forces. These Sentinel robots are a good choice. The role of these robots is far from being just to deal with mutants. Each robot has the ability of several mutants, and its combat power is not much inferior to that of level 4 mutants like Emma. As long as there are enough of them. Not to mention protecting this small island, even conquering the entire United States is not a problem. After hearing this, Raven showed a trace of difficulty on his face. I don't think we can take down the Sentinel robot headquarters. There are various weapons specifically for dealing with mutants. Even Emma's psychic ability can't penetrate into the base. Don't worry, you don't have to worry about this. I have my own way. You just need to sort out all the information you know. Raven saw that Zemo didn't seem to be lying, so he nodded helplessly. This is very simple. I can give it to you tonight. Nodding, Zemo finally set his eyes on Eric. Your next task is to first build the main building of the base, and then take the rest of the people to salvage the sunken ship near the island. He couldn't figure out what Magneto was thinking before he left such a huge treasure trove on the island unexplored, and instead relied on gangsters like Jinbing to help him make money. You know, the reason why this place is called the Island of Death is because there are countless reefs within a few hundred miles around the island. It is also for this reason that there are countless shipwrecks within this range. There are many shipwrecks from hundreds of years ago. These are all treasures. Any shipwreck or antique salvaged is more than the income of these gangs in a few years. As he said, Zemo looked at the mutant named John beside him. The salvage mission mainly depends on you. He was tortured by the White Queen and fainted, and was thrown on the ship and brought here unexpectedly. It is of great use now. Magneto can only salvage those metal ships and items, and the rest depends on him. After hearing this, John nodded hurriedly. After learning about Zemo's plan, these mutants were very excited. Unlike Magneto, they just want to live in a stable and undisturbed place, and this island is undoubtedly a very suitable place at the moment. And judging from the fact that even Magneto surrendered, Zuemo's strength is undoubtedly stronger. He is fully capable of protecting them. Naturally, everyone is very motivated. After arranging everything, Zuemo asked Emma to take charge of the overall situation, and then came to a cliff beside the island. After controlling the flying knife to carve out a small room of more than 10 square meters on the rock wall, he flashed in. The points are enough, and it is time to break through to the planetary level. Chapter 36 Planetary Warrior, Space Freeze. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Mu-Yajing, consuming 52,000 points. As soon as the system finished speaking, a fist-sized white crystal appeared in his hand, and at the same time a strange fragrance filled the cave. Is this the Mu-Yajing, Zu? Emo looked at the crystal in his hand that was emitting white light, and a hint of heat appeared in his eyes. Taking a deep breath, he directly put the crystal in his hand to his mouth. With a light bite, the shell of the crystal broke open, and the pure white liquid inside flowed into his mouth. A strong rice fragrance exploded in his mouth. Before he could taste it carefully, the liquid flowed into his stomach along his throat. After Zuemo drank all the liquid in the crystal, he only felt a strong burning sensation in his abdomen, and then the heat began to flow to various parts of his body. After a while, Zuemo's whole body was like a cooked prawn, and his skin was red. Feeling this situation, he crossed his legs and began to practice the genetic energy cultivation method. Instantly, the heat in the body seemed to have found an outlet, rushing into the muscle cells frantically. A crackling sound came from his body. As his body continued to get stronger, the dark golden sphere in the sea of consciousness also began to release a lot of mental power. After the mental power was released, it quickly disappeared into the sea of consciousness, and Zuemo's mental power also grew rapidly. I don't know how long it took. The sphere in Zuemo's mind broke with a snap. It turned into countless tiny particles. These particles also melted quickly like ice and snow. Until this time, the energy of the spiritual nucleus had been completely absorbed by Zuemo. This means that his mental power has reached the peak of the god of war. 1,000 tons. However, although the growth rate of mental power has stopped, the energy of the wood spirit is still constantly improving Zuemo's physical fitness. Black matter is constantly discharged from his pores. I don't know how long it has been. The black matter has covered the surface of Zuemo's body. There was also a rumbling sound from his body. After these energies transformed Zuemo's body to the extreme, the remaining large amount of energy gathered towards the position of the lower dantian. It continued to condense and compress at the center of the lower dantian until it was compressed to the extreme. A sphere like a miniature planet appeared at this position, and it slowly rotated like a planet. With the formation of the planet, all the energy in the body was absorbed by the planet. Zuemo, who had closed his eyes, slowly opened his eyes at this moment. A silver light flashed in his eyes. He slowly stood up from the ground, and bursts of sound came from his body. He closed his eyes and looked inward, and saw the planet slowly rotating in the dantian. Is this a sign of entering the planetary level? With a move in his heart, a stream of gravity came from the miniature planet. Zuemo's body floated up from the ground. Unlike before, this time he did not rely on any mental power. As if it was an innate instinct, he could use the miniature planet to control the gravity and magnetism within a certain range around him. It is with this ability that he can fly in the sky like a fish in water. Not only that, after reaching the planetary level, he no longer needs to breathe and can travel freely in space. This is also one of the iconic abilities of the planetary level. Completely get rid of the constraints of the planet. System. Open the attribute panel. Instantly, a familiar screen appeared in front of him. Name: Zuemo. Age: 20 years old. Strength: 1320 tons. Speed: 1300 meters/s. Telekinesis: 1000 tons. Special ability: Space Freezing. Points: 34,420 points. First of all, the physical strength has increased by more than 10 times, from more than 100 tons to more than 1000 tons. This power is almost invincible on Earth. Just a light punch can easily destroy a building with more than 30 floors. The speed exceeds Mach 4. And this is without the blessing of telekinesis. If it is driven by telekinesis, it may exceed Mach 5. Don't underestimate this Mach point. You should know that the later the speed, the more difficult it is to improve. After all, the resistance of the air increases exponentially. As expected, the telekinesis remains at the peak of the God of War. If you want to break through, you need a special technique to condense the telekinesis again. However, this is just a matter of time. I believe that it won't take long before you can also break through to the planetary level spiritualist. What surprised Zuemo the most was this extra special ability point. Because of their physique, warriors also absorb cosmic energy, but the properties of absorbed energy are different. This also leads to the fact that, after breaking through the planetary level, they will gain various different abilities due to different energy absorption. The properties of energy are diverse, and even under the same properties, the awakened abilities are different. This space freezing is a space-based ability point, but it seems that the properties recorded in the technique do not include space properties. After thinking for a moment, Zuemo could only attribute it to the differences in the world. Having not awakened the ability of the space system in that world does not mean that this world is not good. At this moment, Zuemo planned to try this ability of his. He closed his eyes and felt it for a while. It was not until this time that he realized that he seemed to have an inexplicable sense of control over the surrounding space. His heart moved. Zuemo slowly opened his eyes. The surrounding area within 100 meters seemed to be in a state of time standing still. Even the air stopped flowing. The sound of the sea and the birds in the distance that could be heard disappeared. He walked out of the cave in 2 steps. Zuemo's eyes shook suddenly. Within his sight, the surrounding area within 100 meters seemed to be separated from the world. The sea bats flying in the air and the seawater within the range seemed to be frozen and motionless. Too strong, Zuemo exclaimed. At this time, he also roughly understood the role of this ability. It can make the surrounding space still. Unless you have the ability to tear the space, there is almost no way to move in this space. Only he can move freely. Of course, Zuemo can also consume energy to reinforce the frozen space. The size of the reinforcement force increases with his strength. This ability is somewhat similar to the ability to stop time. The only difference is that after this ability is used, although the people in this space cannot move, they have the ability to think. At this moment, Zuemo felt a sense of emptiness in his body. He quickly removed this ability point corresponding to the powerful power. This ability also consumes a lot of energy in the body. In the case of covering a radius of 100 meters like this, he estimated that he could only maintain it for more than 10 seconds. After a long breath, Zuemo suddenly felt a pungent smell rushing into his nasal cavity. Seeing the impurities discharged from his body, Zuemo jumped into the sea. Chapter 37 Star Tower, Crossing G. After soaking in the seawater for half an hour, Zuemo finally washed off the dirt on his body. Just as Zuemo was about to leave, he saw a huge shark swimming towards him in the distance. It was not strange to have sharks in this wild sea. Although the shark swam very fast, it looked like slow motion flick in Zuemo's eyes. Feeling the energy gradually recovering in his body. Zuemo'd his finger lightly. A soybean sized energy ball shot out from his hand. It sank into the shark's body in almost the blink of an eye. After being promoted to the planetary level, unlike the apprentice level who could only rely on physical combat, he could release the energy in his body to attack. After the energy ball sank into the shark's body, a huge explosion sounded. The shark's body instantly turned into pieces. At this moment, Zuemo suddenly felt an abnormal fluctuation from the star tower in his sea of consciousness. Before he could react, his figure flashed and disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in a hole full of technology. The hall was the size of a football field, and the hole was a regular pentagon. There was a huge metal door on each wall. In the center of the hole was a console similar to an open one. Is this the interior of the Star Tower? Zuemo easily guessed his position. At this time, countless lights condensed in the air and finally turned into the image of a girl. The girl had a melon seed face, a head full of silver white hair, and a leather coat on her body, which showed the outline of her figure vividly, with a waist that could not be grasped, and 2 straight and slender legs that accounted for nearly 60% of the body. It was as if she had walked out of a comic book. The perfect figure seemed to have been precisely measured in every inch. After the figure condensed, the girl slowly landed on the ground. She walked to Zuemo, turned around in front of Zuemo, and asked with a smile, "How is it? Are you satisfied with me body?" Before Zuemo could react, the girl noticed Zuemo's gaze and spoke again. "It seems that you are very satisfied." After saying that, the girl let out a silver bell-like laugh. "You humans are really interesting. You can even speed up your heartbeat just because of your appearance." It was not until then that Zuemo had the opportunity to speak. "You are..." The girl suddenly realized, "I forgot to introduce myself. You can call me Xingji, a mechanically intelligent life. I'm considered the spirit of the Star Tower, or it is more appropriate to call me the control center. The master has been promoted to the planetary level and has unlocked a small part of the Star Tower's capabilities." Hearing this, Zuemo's eyes lit up. "Master, please follow me," Xingji said, and turned to walk in one direction. "This is located at the top of the Star Tower. It is the control center of the Star Tower. It is also the residence of the Tower Master, and it is equipped with various auxiliary training rooms." As she said that, Xingji stopped in front of a door, pushed the door open, and walked in. Seeing this, Zuemo followed in without hesitation. After all, he is the master of the Star Tower, so he shouldn't be in danger here. Walking into the room, it was like entering a long corridor in the starry sky. This leads to the simulated battle room, where you can freely choose to fight with various opponents. Of course, the battles are all carried out in the virtual space, so there is no need to worry about getting hurt. The master can try it in the future, which is very helpful for improving combat experience. After that, he continued to lead Zuemo into the next room. This is the lounge. The rooms were introduced one after another. Finally, Xingji took Zuemo to stop in front of the last room. This is a training room, where you can speed up the flow of time, but according to the master's current strength, you can only withstand a maximum of 10 times the speed. Zuemo's heart moved after hearing this. "So, as my strength increases, the flow of time inside can also be improved." "Of course." Xingji nodded. "As a matter of course, the flow of time here can be accelerated by up to 10 million times." Hearing this, Zuemo's eyes showed excitement. Even though it took him only 2 months to reach the planetary level, the speed of cultivation in this lineage is definitely not fast. It takes dozens or even hundreds of years to comprehend the laws with this time accelerating practice room. It will undoubtedly greatly improve the speed of his cultivation. "That's right." At this time, Xingji clapped her hands suddenly. With a light wave of her right hand, the two of them have come to a huge platform. The platform seems to be built in the boundless starry sky. Looking around, there are countless planets as big as stars. Xingji saw Zuemo staring at those planets. "This is a secret space in the Star Tower. Are countless secret spaces like this in the entire Star Tower, and those you see are all sealed stars. With the current strength of the master, there is no way to control them for the time being." Zuemo nodded. According to the system, each of these sealed stars has reached the level of a treasure. With his current planetary strength, let alone the most precious treasure, even if he drained himself, he would not be able to drive it. Under the leadership of Xingji, the two came to the center of the platform. In the center of the platform, there stood an altar, on which there were 2 dark black light pillars leading into the void. The source of the light pillars was the 2 dark divine books. At this time, the appearance of the 2 dark divine books had changed drastically. The pages were no longer made of the original paper material, as if they were completely gathered by black energy. And the 2 lights were the endless dark energy pouring into the books. "What is this?" Seeing this pillar scene, Zuemo showed a look of surprise in his eyes. Xingji chuckled. "When I just sensed these 2 books, I found that there were big problems with these books. Although the magic recorded on them is of great use to the master at present, there are great hidden dangers." Zuemo was very clear about this. After all, almost all people who practice the dark book will have their minds corroded by the dark energy. Speaking of this, Xingji showed a meaningful smile on her face. "To put it simply, this magic is that when the user borrows the opponent's magic power, he brings some private goods, a special energy, to corrode the mind of the person using magic. So, for the sake of the master, I thought about helping the master directly borrow enough magic power to use magic for thousands of years, and after removing the special energy in these magic powers, store them in this book. In the future, when the master uses magic, it is equivalent to borrowing the magic power in the book, and there will be no hidden dangers. Chapter 38 Zithorn, a supercharger. After listening to Crossing G's narration, Zuemo looked happy. I originally thought that Xingji was an ordinary intelligent life similar to Babata, but now it seems that it is not that simple. If you think about it, you will know that Zithorn, the god of the underworld, is not a fool. How could he not feel Crossing G using his strength like this? At present, there are only two possibilities. First, the mana borrowed by Crossing G was just a drop in the bucket for Zithorn. He didn't care and maintained an indifferent attitude, so he did not cut off the mana output. However, Zuemo looked at the huge torrent of mana stretching out in front of him, like the Milky Way, and it was obviously unlikely. If these magical powers don't matter to him, I'm afraid he can overthrow the life court and replace it himself. Then it can only be the second case. Zithorn felt this happening, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. Zuemo is almost certain that this is the real situation. After all, at that time, there was an unknown being controlling the real Dark God book, but it was also killed in his own mind. At that time, I was still a little confused. Thinking about it now, it was obvious that Zithorn was struggling feebly. Thinking of this, Zuemo looked at Crossing G beside him with fiery eyes. Zuemo still didn't say that word. But looking at Crossing G's joking expression, Zuemo knew that the other party obviously did it on purpose. After letting out a chuckle, Crossing G looked back. Zuemo coughed lightly to hide the embarrassment on his face. I mean, what level is your strength probably at? After Crossing G heard this, her laughter gradually subsided. Actually, my strength is not too important to the master. After all, I have no way to leave the Star Tower to help the master. At most, I can help the master control the Star Tower to deal with the enemies that have invaded the Sea of Consciousness. Master only needs to know that in this world, no one can leave after entering the Master's Sea of Consciousness. Hearing this answer, Zuemo took a breath of cold air. So much, then, when he completely controls the Star Tower, wouldn't he become invincible? It wasn't until a minute later that Zuemo calmed down his agitated mood. At this moment, Xingji was already standing on the altar in front of her. He reached out and took down a dark book on it, leaving only one to continue absorbing dark energy. The mana here should be enough for the master to use it for a long time. When it's all used up, just replace it with another one. He ducked back to Zuemo and handed him the dark book in his hand. Zuemo reached out and took the book of darkness. I was once again by shocked. Crossing G's strength. There is no one who can use Zithorn, one of the four oldest ancient gods, as a power bank. After absorbing a large amount of dark energy at this time, there is almost no difference between the two dark books. After such a long period of energy baptism and infusion, even the most ordinary paper will become a powerful artifact. After handling the Book of Darkness into Zuemo's hands, Crossing G stretched out her hand and waved it gently. A drop of blood seeped out from Zuemo's finger, and after a flash, it disappeared into the dark book. The dark divine book emitted a fierce black light, and then disappeared into Zuemo's eyebrows like lightning. That's it. In the future, this book will not only be the source of your magic power, but also greatly increase your spell casting speed and magic power. Zithorn's huge body was now less than half of its original size. After Xingji took down a book of darkness, Zithorn, who was already feeling a little desperate, almost burst into tears with excitement. Slow down, slow down. Zithorn's excited roar echoed in the underworld. According to the previous absorption speed, if there are no accidents, I'm afraid that, if he persists for another month at most, he will be sucked dry. During this period of time, he tried tens of thousands of ways, but could not cut off the absorption of his energy by an unknown existence. The multiverse level god of the underworld, who is as dignified as the five gods, is simply cornered. Fortunately, the absorption speed has been reduced by half now, and the speed at which he can absorb energy is much faster than the speed at which energy is absorbed. It only takes a while for him to recover. The excited Sithorn didn't know how long it took before he recovered from his excitement. Using all his strength to activate his magic power, the dark energy in the underworld turned into a huge vortex and converged towards his position point on the other side. Zuemo had already withdrawn from the Star Tower. Returning to the cave opened on the mountain wall, Zuemo took out the Book of Darkness and studied it. Although the entire Dark God book was turned into energy, the writings recording magic on it remained. Open the Book of Darkness. A series of strange symbols appeared in Zuemo's sight. After staring at the symbols for a moment, the symbols on the page flew out of the book, turned into streams of information in the air, and poured directly into Zuemo's mind. Almost instantly, he understood what was recorded in the book. The magic recorded on the first page is a portal. After closing his eyes and thinking for a while, Zuemo opened his eyes and let out a long breath. If he remembered correctly, the gifted Doctor Strange took a long time to learn this magic. He didn't know how talented he was in magic. After reviewing the content in his mind again, Zuemo planned to give it a try. At that moment, he pinched the seal with his left hand and gently drew a semicircle with his right hand. A space door with black sparks slowly opened not far in front of him. Seeing this scene, Zuemo's eyes flashed with excitement. He never thought that he could successfully cast magic for the first time, but he understood it after a little thought. Generally speaking, the magic cast by a mage or wizard has a great relationship with mental power. The stronger the mental power, the higher the magic talent. And Zuemo is now a spiritualist at the peak of the God of War level. The strength of mental power is more than 1,000 times stronger than that of ordinary people. It is reasonable to be able to cast magic successfully for the first time. As the space door slowly opened, the scene on the other side also appeared clearly in Zuemo's eyes. It seemed that the space door seemed to be opened in a steaming bathroom. In the misty fog, a smooth back figure appeared in the eyelids. The figure's delicate white skin and the hazy beauty in the heat would make anyone who saw it exclaim in amazement. Seeing this, Zuemo was stunned and quickly cast a spell again, trying to close the space door. If the other party saw this, he would probably be defined as a pervert. But I don't know if it was because he was too unfamiliar with the first spell. Originally, Zuemo wanted to close the space door, but after casting the spell, the speed at which the space door expanded doubled, and it opened almost instantly to the extent that one person could pass through. The woman who was taking a bath seemed to be aware of the abnormality behind her. After all, with such a large space door, plus the temperature difference between the two places, the flow of airflow is already very obvious. Feeling the coolness behind her, the woman slowly turned around. She looked at Zuemo, who was standing at the space door. Seeing the woman looking at him, Zuemo realized that it was too late to close it now. I said I didn't mean it. Do you believe me? The woman saw the strange space door behind her, and Zuemo standing behind it, and a look of horror appeared on her face. She curled up in the corner of the bathroom with a scream. It's not that the woman didn't want to go out. The main thing is that the space door was opened at the door, just blocking the exit. The woman had no way to escape, even if she wanted to run. Chapter 39 Hydra Base. Listening to the other party's shrill screams, Zuemo was also numb. Fortunately, after losing the support of Zuemo's energy, the space door in front of him gradually closed. Looking at the gradually closing space door, Zuemo finally breathed a sigh of relief. New York. Sky in the bathroom looked at the closed space door in front of her in shock. Reached out to take down the clothes hanging on the side, put them on, and covered up her amazing curves. Then she walked forward carefully and touched the door with her hand. An incredible look appeared on her face. It's amazing. Was that magic just now? No, it's an illusion. It must be an illusion. It seems that I can't stay up late recently. In the cave on the island. Zuemo reached out and wiped the sweat on his head. He just intended to open a portal to the villa where Wanda and the others lived, but the facts seemed to have some deviations. In order to avoid the same situation, he waved his hand, and the dark book appeared in front of him again, and began to seriously study the records about the space door above. After reading it several times in detail, Zuemo took a deep breath and waved his right hand gently again. After the same spark flashed as last time, a space door opened in front of him again. This time, a familiar scene appeared on the other side of the space door. It was the bedroom of the Seaview Villa. Zuemo looked happy when he saw it. Success. As the space door expanded to the height of a normal person, Zuemo stepped lightly and passed through. The other end of the space door opened in the bedroom of the Seaview Villa. Zuemo opened the door of the bedroom and just saw Wanda, who was about to walk in. Seeing the door suddenly opened and Zuemo appearing behind the door, Wanda was stunned and then tilted her head in confusion and looked into the room. Wait, when I just came out, there was no one in the room. How did you get in? Zuemo smiled softly. Don't worry about these details. The important thing is that you haven't seen each other for a long time. Don't you have anything to do? Wanda blushed when she heard it. With her exclamation, Zuemo picked her up like a princess, and then the door closed and locked automatically. After a while, a harmonious symphony was heard in the room. Fortunately, the sound insulation of the room was good. So the sound did not reach Pietro, who was lifting weights downstairs during this period. Pietro, who could not go out, and the motivation of rapidly improving physical fitness, almost became a heavy fan of lifting weights. Most of the time every day was spent in the gym downstairs. 2 or 3 hours later, Wanda leaned in Zuemo's arms with a blushing face. So, you mean we can go out at will in the future? Of course, it was for your safety before that you were placed in this place. Now that the crisis is over, you can go out and shop at will. Wanda smiled excitedly after getting Zuemo's affirmative answer. Although she likes this kind of isolated life very much, she will always feel a little bored after a long time. After a moment, Wanda bit her lip and spoke after a moment of hesitation. Honey, I want to go to college. Zuemo reached out and stroked the other's smooth back. Why do you suddenly have this idea? Although I like this kind of life, I always feel that this is a waste of time. I want to take advantage of now to learn something. What do you think? Because Wanda and Pietro are both orphans. They both gave up their studies for the sake of life after finishing middle school. Of course I support you. Do you have a university you want to go to? I will arrange it. Zuemo had no objection to this. After thinking about it again and again, Zuemo still felt that it was more reliable to rely on the Mind Stone to help the other party awaken, but it would take 3 or 4 years before Loki brought the Mind Stone to Earth. During this time, it would be a good choice for her to go to college to experience college life. Really? Thank you. Hearing that Zuemo was very supportive of her ideas, Wanda pecked Zuemo on the face excitedly. Your reward is too perfunctory. What do you want? How about continuing? No. Death Island. Zuemo and the White Queen stood on the highest peak on the island. Holding a cylindrical metal instrument that was more than 1 person tall in his hand. This thing is not much bigger than the one on the ship. Is the coverage area really that large? The White Queen looked at the metal instrument and asked in confusion. Of course, Zuemo nodded. The one in his hand was the optical invisibility device. It can generate illusions within a certain range. After the operation on the island begins, it will be easily photographed by satellites. For this reason, Zuemo exchanged this instrument from the system. It cost Zuemo more than 10,000 points for this. Carefully put the instrument on the ground and press a start button on it. In an instant, a drill bit stretched out from the bottom of the cylindrical instrument and pierced into the rock below. Then a blazing light shot out from the top of the instrument. After the light shot to a height of several hundred meters, it dispersed in all directions. A moment later, the island and the surrounding sea were enveloped by a transparent film of light. The film of light flashed and then disappeared. But at this time, looking at the island from the outside, you will find that all the people and buildings on the island have disappeared. Zuemo and his companions had just returned to the villa that had just been built in the center of the island, and Shirley came up with a pair of dark circles under her eyes. Although the other party looked like she had not slept all night, she was extremely excited. The first Hydra base has been found. As she said this, she showed the screen of the computer in her hand. To the 2 point above is a surveillance screen divided into pieces from the surveillance screen. It can be seen that this base is located on the top of a snowy mountain, and the building looks a bit old. Zumo saw at a glance that this was the Hydra base where Wanda and Pietro awakened their abilities. Shirley then tapped a few times on the keyboard. The screen switched to a map with a red dot marked on it, which was obviously the location of the base. It was Sokovia in Eastern Europe. Emma, it looks like we need to go to Eastern Europe. Glad to help. Emma nodded. After hesitating for a moment, Zumo waved his hand gently, and a portal opened on the side. Zumo stepped in first. The White Queen behind him took a look at the portal flashing with black sparks, and followed Zumo in with curiosity. When they came out, they were already on a small island less than 1 square kilometer. Seeing this, the White Queen looked at Zumo with bright eyes. The more she got in touch with him, the more she found that the man in front of her was like a treasure, and he always had all kinds of amazing abilities. Not to mention the book, Phantom Magic Secrets, that Zumo taught her, which doubled her overall strength in a short period of time. He himself has many abilities, a strong physique plus telekinesis to control objects, and he is immune to her mental abilities. Now there is also this mysterious teleportation ability. Mysterious men always arouse women's interest, even a strong woman like the White Queen is no exception. If she hadn't considered that the current occasion was somewhat inappropriate, she would probably have hung on to the other person and completely trapped him. Chapter 40. Baron Tesluk, a man of sense. Let Eric come over here. Emma retracted her eyes that were about to tear after hearing Zumo's order. It was not until this time that she noticed that in the distant sky, Magneto Eric was floating in the air, and under his feet, a huge ship comparable to a luxury cruise ship was slowly surfacing. Obviously, they have begun to act according to Zumo's plan. In Zumo's view, only the White Queen herself can completely take down the Hydra base. After all, there seems to be no combat personnel in the Hydra base. It's nothing more than some conventional combat weapons. There are nothing more than ordinary people inside. Facing the White Queen's mental ability, without special preventive measures, it can be said that there is almost no ability to resist. However, Zumo's goal is not to destroy the base, but to make the entire base his own. Not only researchers and soldiers, but also various equipment and instruments inside. This involves a problem, and all these things need to be moved back. Although Zumo can do all these things, but why bother to do it yourself when there are subordinates who can do it for you? Subordinates are there to be used. Eastern Europe. Sokovia. A Hydra base on a certain mountain. In the woods halfway up the mountain, a space gate slowly opened. Zumo and the other two stepped out of the space gate. Looking up at the ancient building full of age on the top of the mountain, Zumo turned his head and looked at Emma behind him. The rest is up to you. Of course. The White Queen nodded, took 2 steps forward, and the silver light in her eyes was bright. It took less than 10 seconds. Emma's mouth corners slightly raised. Found you. Before setting off, Zumo had already told her that the person in charge of the base was a man named Stark. As long as he was controlled, he could smoothly control the Hydra base. The room in the southeast corner of the top floor of the base. As soon as the White Queen finished speaking, a space gate appeared in front of the three again. After the three of them passed through the space door, they appeared in the room Emma mentioned. This room looked like an office. In the room at this time, a middle-aged short-haired man was standing in front of the table with a dull look. Zumo walked up and sat down on the chair behind the table, then winked at the White Queen. Emma nodded, and after a snap of his fingers, the man came back to his senses, as if he had just woken up from a dream. Noticing the 3 people who suddenly appeared in the room, his expression changed. He took a few steps back without leaving a trace, looking at the 3 people with a cautious face. Who are you and why are you in my room? At the same time, he put his right hand behind his back and touched the hard object in his hand. He was sure in his heart. Then he drew his gun cleanly, aimed, and shot. It took less than a second for a set of actions. Baron Tesluk was sure that even the most powerful mercenary could not move faster than him. He was confident that the other party could not react in such a short time. The facts were indeed as he expected. The 3 of them did not dodge at all, letting the bullets pass through their brows. Baron Tesluk looked at the 3 bodies lying on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. but before he could be happy, there was a sound of applause in the room. Then the scene in front of him dissipated like bubbles. The 3 dead people appeared in the room again, still standing in the previous position. The one who applauded was the young man sitting on the seat. Seeing this scene, a trace of cold sweat slid down Tesla's forehead. How is it possible? His worldview received a huge impact. Zuemo looked at his doubtful look and smiled. It must be said that using Emma's ability to deal with these ordinary people is simply a dimensionality reduction attack. Even Emma, before practicing Phantom Magic's secret method, could easily play with them, let alone Emma now. Give her a year or 2 of development time. I'm afraid even Professor X can't see through her illusion. Compared with Emma, who has practiced the Phantom Magic secret method, it is like a barefoot doctor compared to a doctoral student who graduated from a regular medical university. It's not that Professor X's talent is not strong enough. It's the difference in the level of cognition between the two. One is completely relying on his own exploration, while the other is the experience summed up by countless predecessors after hundreds of millions of years. There is no comparability between the two. Why, are you wondering why we are dead and alive again? You still have bullets in your gun. You can try again. Maybe this time we will really be killed by you. Baron Stark gradually calmed down after hearing Zuemo's words. As a senior member of the Hydra organization, he is not completely ignorant of these people with supernatural powers. The other party is so calm, so he can be sure that if he shoots again, the result will not change, but it may anger the other party. Realizing this, Teslax simply threw the gun in his hand away. Since you didn't kill me the first time, then I'm still useful to you. Tell me, what do you want me to do? After listening to the other party's words, Zuemo nodded with satisfaction. He is indeed a highly intelligent person who can even study the mind gem. His decisiveness in dealing with things is indeed surprising. He recognized the situation so quickly and made the most favorable choice for himself. It's very simple. I want you and the entire base to work for me in the future. Okay. Without any hesitation, Stark agreed directly. Zuemo naturally didn't believe that the other party would sincerely surrender, but it didn't matter with Emma. Even if the other party had any other thoughts, she would know it at the first time. And Emma's ability has another function, which is to subtly influence the thoughts in other people's hearts. This ability is different from the soul seal, which can only quietly change a certain idea of the other party. For example, the degree of loyalty to the organization. Just like the brainwashing method of pyramid schemes, after a long period of various psychological interventions, the other party can be brainwashed unconsciously. The reason why the Hellfire organization has been able to grow so strong is due to her ability. In the future, under the influence of Emma's ability, these people will soon become fanatical believers of the organization. Next, under the command of Teslac, the entire Hydra base was mobilized. All kinds of weapons and equipment, tanks and airplanes were transferred to the Death Island through the space gate. In this process, Zuemo was also very impressed. As one of the oldest organizations in the world, the foundation of the Hydra base is very strong. There are 7 or 8 independently developed fighters alone. There are countless tanks and war vehicles. And it also includes a complete production line that can produce such weapons and equipment. It can be said that, if there is sufficient funding, it can explode to the extent of launching a war in a short period of time. The relocation project lasted a whole day. When it got dark. The entire Hydra base, except for the building with a sense of age, was empty. Of course, the reason why it was moved in one day was thanks to Magneto. If he could not take away those tons of equipment directly, this process would take several days. As the space gate closed, a huge explosion sounded at the base. The only remaining building was reduced to a pile of ruins. Chapter 41. All promoted to junior warriors. This time, the Hydra base was completely looted, which can be said to be a huge harvest. Let's not talk about the weapons and equipment. More than a dozen scientific researchers and nearly 500 soldiers. There are several kinds of cross-era technologies alone. The most useful one is the technology of energy shield point. Moreover, those scientific researchers have dismantled the device of the Hydra base and placed it on the island point. The size of the shield can be adjusted according to the output power at this time. The entire Death Island has been shrouded in the shield point according to Baron Tesluck. Even missiles can't break through the defense of the shield point. With the incorporation of the Hydra base, the development of the island has gradually got on the right track. Soren and the other 9 also came to the island at Zuemo's command. As the first people to follow Zuemo, with the improvement of their physique with a large amount of ferocious beast meat, the 9 of them have now all reached the level of quasi-warriors, and their fist strength has all exceeded 900 kilograms. Zuemo plans to let them become formal warriors, and then serve as instructors to train these Hydra soldiers on the island point. His idea is very simple. These soldiers, pick out a person with better talent, train him, and form a killer organization. Specialize in hunting down those villains and help him get points through this period of exploration. Zuemo gradually figured out the system's definition of villains. Almost anyone who has done bad things will be classified as a villain. In this way, almost 90% of people can get points after killing them. The difference is just how many points they get after killing. It only takes a period of time to transform the body with the meat of fierce beasts, and it is estimated that it will not take long to become a warrior. It is only a matter of time to be promoted to the level of war generals. The remaining soldiers with less talent will form a special combat team, which is specially used to clean up those evil organizations. Even if it is difficult for them to reach a very high level, it is very simple to reach the level of primary warriors with the improvement of the meat of fierce beasts. Just reaching this level, the punching force is more than 900 kilograms. It is more than 1 level stronger than the so-called soldier kings in the outside world. When several people join forces, they can easily destroy an armed team of hundreds of people. In a cleared space on the east side of the island, the 9 people of Soren sat cross-legged on the ground. Do you understand? Zuemo turned his head and looked at the 9 people sitting in a row. It must be said that it took him a long time to make these guys with muscles in their heads fully understand the gene energy cultivation method. Of course, it was mainly because the theory of meridians and acupoints in traditional Chinese medicine was difficult for them Westerners to understand. Seeing them all nodded, Zuemo breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, now let's start practicing according to the way I taught you. With Zuemo's order, the 9 people all concentrated their minds and held their breath, slowly closed their eyes, and entered a state of meditation. According to Zuemo's estimation, it might not be easy for them to feel the energy of the universe in a short time, so they simply sat cross-legged on the spot and prepared to practice. Now his warrior has reached the planetary level, and his spiritualist strength is still stuck at the peak of the god of war. To be promoted to a planetary spiritualist, he also needs to condense another star core in the sea of consciousness. All he had to do now was to constantly refine his mental power. It took him half an hour to find a secret technique for refining mental power in his mind. Spirit refining technique. As the spirit refining technique was running, the mental power in Zuemo's sea of consciousness instantly boiled up, and at the same time a mysterious totem appeared in the sea of consciousness, and a trace of mental power around it continued to pass through the totem. Every time the mental power passed through the totem, it would become more condensed. But this seemed to be a long process. After a few hours, the condensed mental power was less than 1% of the total point, but Zuemo was not in a hurry. At this speed, it would only take 1 or 2 months to completely condense the mental power. It lasted until the morning of the next day. Changes gradually appeared among the 9 people sitting in a row outside. A short-haired woman in her 30s sitting next to him was shocked. Zuemo, who was concentrating on refining his mental power in the front, seemed to have sensed something and slowly opened his eyes. In his sight, a trace of cosmic energy was gradually gathering towards the body of the short-haired woman, and the speed was getting faster and faster. Vanessa, he did not expect that the first person among the 9 people to feel the cosmic energy was one of the only 2 women. But there was nothing strange about this. There was no necessary relationship between cultivation talent and the speed of sensing energy. The amount of energy that could be absorbed every day was crucial. It seemed that Vanessa's start triggered a chain reaction. In the next half an hour, 4 people successively sensed the cosmic energy and began to absorb the cosmic energy for the first time to improve their physical fitness until an hour later. Everyone had begun to absorb the cosmic energy. Zuemo was not surprised by this. These people were mercenaries before. And all of them crawled out of the pile of dead bodies. Their perception ability is much stronger than that of ordinary people. At this time, Vanessa, who started the first time, gradually completed the first absorption of cosmic energy and slowly opened her eyes. Vanessa, who opened her eyes, stood up suddenly from the ground, looking at the other party's excited expression. Zuemo made a silent gesture, then pointed in the direction of the river, indicating that the other party should wash his body first. Vanessa only then realized that her body was covered with a layer of black impurities. She immediately rushed towards the direction of the river. Soon, people woke up one after another and went to the river. In the end, only Soren was left in the field, still absorbing cosmic energy. He was the second one to start absorbing energy. If calculated, he absorbed energy longer than anyone else. This also means that Soren's strength is the most talented among these people. It was not until more than half an hour later that Soren woke up. Boss. After Soren woke up, he said hello and stood there waiting for Zuemo's instructions. Zuemo reached out and patted him on the shoulder. But go wash up first and then gather here. An hour later, everyone finished washing and stood on the field again. At this time, there were 2 more instruments in the field. A dynamometer and a speedometer. Both were just exchanged by Zuemo from the system. The technological content was not too high, and it cost Zumazuri 200 points in total. According to Zuemo's instructions, they began to test in the order they woke up. Vanessa, who had been eager to try for a long time, came up first. She clenched her fist and hit the target hard. There was a sound of bang. Under the force, the target was moved more than 2 meters to the back. Looking at the display screen on the side, 15-20 kilograms. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Simulation Battle Room. Seeing the numbers on the screen, people around them all cried out in surprise. Vanessa showed a look of disbelief on her face. A day ago, her strength barely exceeded 900 kilograms. She never dreamed that in just one night, her strength would increase by nearly double. It's incredible. Her mouth opened into an O shape. When she went to take a shower just now, she had some guesses that the increase in strength this time would be relatively large. After all, the limbs were somewhat deformed due to the sharp increase in strength, but she didn't expect it to be exaggerated to this extent. You know, the later the strength is, the more difficult it is to increase. The 9 of them ate the meat of fierce beasts, and it took only more than a month for their strength to exceed 800 kilograms. But in the following month, their strength only increased by more than 100 kilograms in their opinion. Even this was enough to defy the heavens. It took only more than 2 months to increase their strength from less than 200 kilograms to nearly 1 ton. This is already beyond the limit of human beings. Even in their previous mercenary career, they had never seen a human being with such a physique. Unexpectedly, today they were given another huge surprise. The strength was directly increased to 1.5 tons, almost able to lift a car with bare hands. And from what Zuemo just said, this is just the beginning. Practicing this technique, their strength will be able to grow almost unlimitedly in the future. Standing aside, Zuemo just nodded silently. Test the speed. He pointed to the speed test instrument on the side and said. Vanessa nodded when she heard it. After a run up, her body flashed across the track of the speedometer. 38m/s. Not bad, Zuemo nodded. As a woman, Vanessa's body was small, and speed was her strong point. It was close to the level of an intermediate warrior. As a captain, Soren wrote it down on the paper in his hand. Next, Harry, who was Colt, walked up excitedly. 1650 kilograms, 34m/s. In The following time, everyone was tested. Most people's strength was about 1,600 kilograms. Only Soren reached 1,960 kilograms. Almost one step away from becoming an intermediate warrior. I'm afraid it won't take a few days to be promoted to an intermediate warrior. The other side of the island. What? Appoint a new instructor to train the soldiers. I disagree. These soldiers are all trained by me strictly according to the training methods of the special forces. I don't think any instructor can do better than this. Colonel. Harry looked at Stark opposite him stubbornly. Colonel, all you need to do is follow orders. Stark warned the other party with a stern face. Don't make trouble for me, otherwise I won't let you go. After that, he turned and left the temporary stationing position of the soldiers. Although he had the same idea as the other party, what he said now didn't count. Looking at Stark, who was leaving, Colonel Harris' face was at end. In the past few days, Baron Stark first ordered the base to be moved to this island, and then all the weapons of these soldiers were confiscated. Now it seems that new instructors will be appointed. All of this made him feel a sense of crisis. It seemed that he, the commander in charge of the soldiers in the base, would soon be sidelined. However, he did not have the courage to disobey orders. He just secretly made up his mind that, after meeting the so-called instructors of the other side, he must show them some color. Let them know who is the most suitable person to lead this team. He used to be an instructor of the US Special Marine Corps, and he thought that his training and fighting skills were not inferior to anyone. In the Star Tower, Zuemo stood outside the door of the simulated battle room. Opening the door and walking in, there were equipment like space capsules in the room. He lay in a space capsule without any hesitation. As the hatch closed, a flash of light appeared, and he was already standing in a void. A mechanical voice that seemed to contain no emotion sounded in his ears. Please select your opponent and combat environment. As soon as the words fell, a selection panel appeared in front of him. You can choose a spiritualist or a warrior from the opponent. Zuemo first chose a planetary level first level warrior, and the location was the grassland. As he pressed the selected button, please select your weapon. After choosing a somewhat heavy sword, the light and shadow flashed. The scene of the surrounding starry sky began to change rapidly. Almost in the blink of an eye, it turned into an endless grassland. Looking at the blue sky, feeling the real touch of the grass under your feet, and the breeze blowing on your face. Reaching out to pull a handful of grass leaves from the ground, a fresh scent of grass and trees rushed into your nose. To real. Zuemo sighed. Although I know that this is just a virtual world, it is too real. What is the difference between this and a real world? At this moment, the figure of a middle-aged man slowly gathered not far in front of him. At first, the man's eyes were still dull, until the sound of the battle started, ringing Zuemo's ears. The man's eyes instantly became smart, and then his figure flashed, and he rushed towards Zuemo with a sword in his hand. Zuemo also tightened the sword in his hand, and went forward. In an instant, the two figures touched each other. After a loud bang, Zuemo's figure turned into a residual image, and flew backwards at a faster speed. His figure rubbed the ground and plowed along gully on the grass. Zuemo stopped his figure, and stood up again. Looking at the figure in the air, he rubbed his right arm, that was already numb. Except for special requirements, the opponents simulated in the system are at the peak level of the current level. Just like the planetary first level warrior in front of him. At the peak level of the planetary first level, the strength reaches 2,000 tons. The strength alone is nearly twice as much as his own. Originally, Zuemo was not inferior to his opponent with the blessing of mental power, but the average amplitude of the force exerted by the warriors of this level reached about 5 times, and Zuemo's amplitude of force was only 3 times. Even after the mental power was added to the knife, it was only about half of the opponent's strength. It should be noted that the amplitude of mental power refers to how many weapons can be controlled at the same time, and they can all reach the maximum value. It cannot be increased by a certain number of times on a single weapon. Just like a person's strength is 1 ton, then he can use both hands to exert 1 ton of force. But he can never use a punch to exert 2 tons of force. The same is true for mental power. Zuemo, with a mental power of 1,000 tons and an amplitude of 12, can control 12 weapons at the same time, so that the power of all 12 weapons reaches 1,000 tons. but if he controls one weapon alone, he can only exert 1000 tons of power at most. Of course, those mental power weapons with special ciphers are different. This is also the meaning of the existence of mental power weapons. If I hadn't reacted quickly and used my ability to freeze space, I would have been killed in an instant point after all. Being twice as strong doesn't mean being twice as strong. For someone like me, it wouldn't take much effort, even if I had to fight against hundreds of warriors like me at the same time. Chapter 43 Dream Walking. Zuemo had just stood up from the ground when the warrior on the opposite side appeared in front of him again. The sword in the opponent's hand drew a residual image and slashed towards his neck. Fast, too fast. Zuemo activated the ability to freeze space just before the sword slashed his neck. In an instant, the warrior who was close at hand seemed to be paused and froze in the air. The opponent felt that he could not break free from the constraints of space in an instant, and a trace of fierceness flashed in his eyes. Feeling the violent energy fluctuations coming from the opponent's body, Zuemo's face changed and he disappeared from the spot. Boom. With a loud bang, the warrior on the opposite side burst out with terrifying energy. Fortunately, Zuemo had dodged a distance of several hundred meters at this time. Although his flashing speed was fast enough, the energy generated by the opponent's self-explosion was faster, and he activated the space freeze again to block the power of the opponent's self-explosion, who after a long breath, Zuemo showed a trace of fear on his face. It must be said that the warriors in that world, who have been fighting for a long time, have too much combat experience. In addition, he has just started to practice and has experienced too few battles. Compared with the opponent, there is a world of difference. If it weren't for his innate ability, he would probably be killed by the opponent in the first place. Even if it wasn't for his innate ability, he would probably be killed by the opponent in the first place if he was dodged by himself. The opponent did not hesitate at all and attacked him again, fighting to the death. Finally, under the innate ability, the opponent knew that he could not escape, and he did not hesitate to self-destruct. The degree of cruelty opened Zuemo's eyes if he met such a fighting maniac in reality. With his current combat experience, he might fall into the hands of the opponent, even if his strength was 1 or 2 levels higher than the opponent. With the end of the battle, Zuemo returned to the previous starry sky. Please choose the opponent's strength. This time, Zuemo chose an opponent with the same strength as him. This time, he did not plan to use the ability of space freezing. After all, his purpose was to train his combat experience. If he could kill the opponent instantly with this bug-like ability, he would not be able to achieve the purpose of training combat experience. After the selection, Zuemo's figure appeared on the grassland again. Half a minute later, he was reborn in the starry sky. There was a spasm on his face, caused by pain. In order to pursue reality, he set the pain to 100%. The moment his body was cut in two, the pain almost made him faint. Come again. After resting for 2 minutes, Zuemo entered the battle again. For the next whole day, Zuemo was in a cycle of fighting, dying, and fighting again. He could only hold on for half a minute at the beginning, and then 1 minute and 2 minutes later, when he finished a day's training, he could hold on for more than 10 minutes under the attack of his opponent. The door of the simulated battle room slowly opened, and Zuemo walked out. He rubbed his numb temple. After a whole day of high concentration, he looked a little tired. He turned around and came to the practice room. However, the practice room can not only adjust the flow rate of time, but also the concentration of energy. The higher the concentration of energy, the better the difficulty of controlling and absorbing energy will increase accordingly. If the energy density is too high. After adjusting the flow rate of time to 10 times and the energy concentration to 100 times, Zuemo stepped into the practice room. The furnishings inside were very simple. There was only a bed and a table. Zuemo sat cross-legged on the bed, running the gene energy practice method, slowly absorbing energy and relieving the mental fatigue caused by high intensity fighting. In the next few days, Zuemo went from one place to another every day. He continued to fight in the battle room to increase his practical experience. When he was tired, he went to the practice room to practice gene energy and forging God technique. He took time to study the Dark God book. With the continuous deepening of his research on the magic in the Dark God book, Zuemo also found a magic suitable for his current situation. Dreamwalking technique. That is the spell that Wanda used to travel through the multiverse. This spell is similar to possession and can be cast to travel to the parallel universe point, and it will not cause any damage to the parallel world. After leaving, the person in the parallel world, whose body is possessed by oneself, will return to normal. It can be said that the difference between the two is similar to soul and body. However, it takes a full 100 million points to redeem dimension teleportation. Before collecting enough points, this magic can also be used to harvest points in other parallel worlds. However, this dream walking spell is different from the magic of the portal. Even in the Dark God book that records countless spells, it belongs to the top category. He still needs a period of comprehension before trying to cast it. It happens that during this period of time, things in this world can be arranged on the right track first. At that time, those subordinates will help me harvest points in this world, and I will harvest in the parallel world. With two-pronged approach, my strength improvement speed can be greatly improved. I believe that before Thanos comes, I can grow to the point of completely crushing the opponent. A few days later, New York. Tony is in a villa halfway up the mountain. Hey, man, it seems that marriage is really a grave. I haven't heard any gossip about you recently. Tony poured Zuemo a glass of whiskey and then sat down on the opposite sofa. Before, the two of them were frequent visitors to those entertainment gossips. Same. It seems that I haven't seen any news about you there recently, since he started dating Pepper. Tony has also restrained himself a lot. Well, I don't think you came to me today to compete with me to see who is the model of a good man. Tony waved his hand and said, "Of course, I came here to make a deal with you this time." Zuemo took a sip of the wine glass. "Oh, tell me." Tony also poured himself a glass of whiskey and pretended to listen attentively. "I need a set of steel armor." Of course, according to Zuemo's current strength, the armor has almost no effect on him. In comparison, his set of vibranium armor is more suitable for him. This set of armor is a gift he prepared for Wanda. Pietro has already started training, and according to his current strength as a primary warrior, he is able to protect himself. Before awakening, Wanda was just an ordinary person. Besides, he will go to school soon, so he needs to prepare some means of self-protection. Tony's armor is a good choice. Dude, are you kidding? Although we are best friends, I said at the press conference that I'm one with the armor. Giving the armor to others is equivalent to selling myself. Do you think I will sell myself? Tony shook his head and refused directly. Zuemo had expected this, and a playful look appeared on his face. "Tony, don't be so absolute. Believe me, you will change your mind." Tony smiled. "I am a man of my word. If I say I won't give it to you, I won't give it to you." "Really, Zu?" Emo smiled at the corner of his mouth and glanced at Tony's chest. "If I'm not mistaken, this big magnet on your chest is to absorb shrapnel in the blood. Water." As soon as these words came out, Tony sat up suddenly from the sofa in shock, not even noticing that the whiskey in his hand spilled on his body. Chapter 44. What color armor do you like? Tony had never told anyone about the chest device that absorbed the shrapnel in the body. The only one who knew was Pepper. But Pepper obviously couldn't tell Zuemo about this. So where did Zuemo know about it? Tony looked around the room with his eyes wide open. Did you secretly install a bug or camera in my room? This is not what a good citizen should do." After a round, Tony, who found nothing, returned to Zuemo. "Jarvis, help me check if there are any network surveillance devices in the villa." "Okay, sir." In less than a minute, Jarvis's electronic voice sounded again in the room. "Sir, no surveillance equipment has been found in the villa at present." Emo sat on the sofa, looking at Tony's angry look, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. "Don't worry, I don't have that kind of perverted hobby. I'm not interested in what you did in the room. The reason why I know about the shrapnel is because of my ability, as he said." Zuemo waved his right hand gently. The knife and fork in the kitchen flew over suddenly under the influence of mental power, and finally stopped in the air between the two people, slowly rotating. This was the reason he had thought of long ago. And the reason why he revealed the illusion that he could only manipulate metal was to leave a trump card point in this way. Even if it was exposed, with the precedent of Magneto, people would accept the setting that he could only manipulate metal without any doubt. In this way, he might save his life at any time. Ward fake. Seeing this scene, Tony's expression was more exaggerated than before. Mutant. Magneto. You Eric's illegitimate son, Tony. If you don't take care of your mouth, I can't guarantee that this knife and fork will not be stuck in your mouth the next moment. Zoo. Emma looked at the other party unhappily. Sorry, I'm just too excited. After a long time, Tony calmed down his excitement point. After learning about the shrapnel in his blood, Tony certainly thought about how to take them out. Conventional medical skills cannot do it for the time being. As for unconventional methods, the first person he thought of was Magneto. 2 years ago, the scene of Magneto controlling the Golden Gate Bridge was clearly imprinted in the minds of every American. It is almost common knowledge that the other party has the ability to control Metal Point. With this ability, the other party should be able to easily remove the shrapnel in his blood point. Unfortunately, that was also the last glory of Magneto Point. After that, he was injected with mutant serum and became an ordinary old man Point. He also sent people to privately look for mutants with similar abilities, but he never had any clues during this period. He also found that, because of the arc reactor in his chest, the palladium element in his blood exceeded the standard, and his body had some signs of palladium poisoning. Point. Although he took some measures, but if it continues within 3 years, the toxin will cause irreversible damage to him. Zuemo's ability made him see hope again. After thinking for less than 10 seconds, Tony breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, you win. What color armor do you like? After the two discussed the details of the armor, Tony couldn't wait to pull Zuemo to the medical room on the second floor of the villa. Under Zuemo's efforts, Tony not only helped him make a set of armor, but also helped Zuemo make a set every time the armor was updated. Zuemo glanced at the 7 or 8 doctors around him. I don't think you need to make such a big fuss. I don't intend to leak my secrets. Hearing this, Tony also reacted. Because of Magneto's crazy troubles, ordinary people now have some rejection of mutants. He can understand that Zuemo doesn't want to reveal his identity. Tony, lying on the operating table, waved away the doctors, licked his lips that were cracked due to nervousness. Dude, do you promise not to go to the hospital and can get it done here? Tony originally planned to go to the hospital so that if there was any accident, there would be room for recovery. But Zuemo insisted that they could just find a room. That's why they came to this medical room. Zuemo saw Tony's nervous look. He could only comfort him. Don't worry, I won't joke about this. It doesn't matter if you die, but it won't work if no one helps me make armor. Even if it's for my armor, I won't let anything happen to you. Tony pouted and gave Zuemo a thumbs up. You really know how to comfort people. When there were only 2 of them left in the room, Zuemo started directly. He first controlled the shrapnel to flow into a small blood vessel on his arm that could barely accommodate it, and then tied a tourniquet on both sides. With a thought, several small shrapnel flew out. The whole process took less than a minute, until Zuemo manipulated several shrapnel into Tony's hands. Tony was still confused. I'll leave this as a souvenir for you, Zoo. Emo opened the door and looked at a group of private doctors waiting outside. You can come in and help him stop the bleeding. After saying that, his expression suddenly moved, and he stared at a familiar figure standing among the group of doctors, with a playful smile on his face. Tony looked at the shrapnel in his hand with a look of disbelief on his face. Is this the end? After touching his chest, the usual feeling of oppression had completely disappeared. As doctors poured into the room. Zuemo turned around and left. In the medical room. Tony shouted as he looked at a group of doctors who were staring at him at a loss. Hurry up and bandage it for me. Seeing the small wound on Tony's arm, a doctor in the crowd hurriedly came up, opened the medicine box, and began to disinfect him. At this time, a doctor standing nearby looked at the wound exposed. After wiping away the blood, Mr. Tony, your wound really needs to be bandaged as soon as possible. Hearing the other party's tone, Tony's expression changed as he was observing the shrapnel in his hand. What do you mean, serious? The other doctors also looked over with doubts. After all, no matter how you look at it, this is an ordinary small wound. Although a vein was injured, judging from the location and the amount of bleeding, it was only a superficial small vein, and there was a tourniquet. Definitely not a serious injury. You misunderstood. The wound is not serious. The doctor next to him had a smile on his face. I mean, if we don't bandage it quickly, the wound will heal. Hearing the other party's words, that were obviously making fun of him, Tony became a little angry. Which hospital are you a doctor in? I want to file a complaint against you. Of course, this is your right. The doctor who bandaged him took out a business card and handed it to Tony. I'm currently a surgeon at Mount Sinai Hospital. You can call me Strange. After speaking, Strange walked directly outside Point as a well-known surgeon at Mount Sinai Hospital. Under the forced order of the dean, he turned down an important surgical operation and came here for medical treatment. However, he did not expect that just a trainee nurse could easily bandage the wound. Work point. These people are simply wasting medical resources. Chapter 45 Establishment of a Special Forces Team. Island of the Dead. Point. After a few days, Soren and others have completely adapted to their own surge in power this morning. Point. Under the leadership of Emma, the 9 people came to the camp where more than 500 soldiers were stationed. Point. At this time, wooden houses have been built one after another in the camp. As a soldier, survival in the wild is the most basic skill, not to mention that this is not exactly survival in the wild. There are various construction machinery in the camp. With a whistle. Point. Soon all the soldiers lined up neatly in a huge open space in the center of the camp. Point. In front of the camp is a wooden platform half a meter above the ground. Point. Seeing that the soldiers below had gathered, Emma walked onto the wooden platform. In the next period of time, Colonel Solon will serve as your chief instructor and conduct special training for you for half a month. Soldiers who successfully pass the special training will be qualified to join the Special Operations Team. I'm sorry, sir, but I'd like to know if there are any benefits to joining the Special Forces. A soldier standing in the front row raised his hand and asked after listening. Certainly, Emma nodded. After joining the Special Operations Team, in addition to doubling your salary, you will also receive a mysterious gift. As for what the gift is, you will only know after you are qualified. Upon hearing this, there was a burst of whispers from the phalanx of soldiers. The reason why these people joined this kind of private army is not for their ideals and ambitions, but for money. Point. Now tell them that after joining the special teams, their salary will be doubled directly. Point. How could we not excite them? Point. Colonel Harry, who was standing aside, felt his heart sink when he saw the excited expressions of the soldiers. He knew very well that no soldier could refuse this reward. After all, these soldiers are all desperados who put their heads on their belts for the sake of beautiful swords. If they are loyal, the object of their loyalty is also US dollars. Compared with US dollars, he, the commander, can only stand aside. Point. Moreover, after the establishment of the Special Operations Team, what should he, the commander of the original unit, do? After thinking for a moment, he walked out from the side. I wonder who will be the commander of this special force. Hearing this, Emma glanced at Harry. She naturally understood what the other party meant. The Special Operations Team is trained and organized by Mr. Salon, so naturally the other party serves as the instructor of the Special Operations Group. Hearing this, Harry's expression darkened. Point. In his opinion, he is the most suitable candidate as the commander of the Special Operations Team in terms of qualifications and strength. Point. After all, he is the commander of this team. Point. Baron Strucker did not tell him that their current identities were trophies captured by the other party. Point. After all, since arriving on the island, although the general has not redistributed their weapons, he has not restricted their freedom. Point. In the past few days, he also walked around the island several times. It was found that except for the people from their base, there were not many outsiders in his opinion. These people were just people re-recruited by Baron Strucker. I wonder if Mr. Soren once served in that army. When Soren heard this, he chuckled and walked out of the queue of 9 people. I haven't served in any army. I was just a mercenary before. After listening to Soren's introduction, Harry breathed a sigh of relief and spoke with confidence. In this case, I think as the commander-in-chief, I'm more suitable than Soren. Emma had no intention of wasting time with them here. Turning to face Soren, leave it to you. After saying that, Emma turned around and left point. Although compared to training, Harry may be better than Soren point, but in the future, this special team will mainly perform single-person assassinations or team joint operations. In this regard, Soren, as a mercenary, is undoubtedly much stronger than Harry, who was born in the army. As for the single-player combat capabilities, the two are not in the same order of magnitude. This so-called Colonel Harry is probably not much different from a toys in their hands during this period of time. She was busy with the island's construction planning, and she didn't have much time to practice. If she had time to watch them abuse food, she might as well go back and practice more in the phantom magic secrets. The more she practiced and studied, the more powerful she became aware of this secret technique. The awe of Zuemo in his heart grew stronger. Harry, who stayed behind, saw Emma leaving directly, with an angry look on his face. This is naked contempt for oneself. Soren on the side saw the angry expression on his face. Okay, we all know what you think. Don't say I won't give you a chance. Harina, get out of the queue. As he finished speaking, a thin woman walked out of the queue behind him. As long as you can last half a minute in Helena's hands, I will offer you the position of commander with both hands. After listening to Soren's words, the anger in Harry's eyes almost burst out. This is a huge insult to him. A dignified former instructor of the US Special Forces Marines was insulted like this. You fucking bastard, I'm going to shove your head up my ass. After saying that, the angry Harry rushed towards Soren like a cheetah. Harry's proud speed seemed like slow motion to Soren. He could clearly see the tense muscles on his arms and the trembling facial muscles as he ran. Seeing that he was not tactful, Soren did not need to indulge him. He raised his right leg and kicked lightly. Harry only saw a phantom flash by, and a strong force came from his abdomen. Then his body flew backwards uncontrollably. After he flew more than 10 meters, he hit the big tree behind him hard. It was not until then that he felt a piercing pain coming from his abdomen. His whole body was bent into a shrimp shape under this pain. The whispering soldiers in the audience saw this scene and instantly quieted down. It was not because their previous superiors were beaten. These soldiers were just a job, and Harry was just a leader in the eyes of company employees. Seeing the leader being beaten, will the employees be united against the enemy? What a joke. It's good enough not to applaud and celebrate. What shocked them was that this was the first time in reality that someone could be kicked more than 10 meters away. Soren also noticed the expressions of these soldiers. At the moment, he also planned to boost the morale of these soldiers. Turned and walked to a coconut tree with a bowl-sized thickness. The right foot was quickly pulled out, and after a low sound, the coconut tree broke about 1 meter from the ground. Looking at the slowly falling coconut tree, the soldiers' expressions became more exciting. Are you all curious about the special rewards after joining the special forces? I can tell you that the reward is related to improving your own strength. As long as you get this reward, everyone will have the opportunity to reach my level, or even stronger. After listening to Soren's words, these soldiers looked at Soren with a fiery face. As a soldier, who doesn't want to gain powerful strength? Looking at the eyes of these soldiers, Soren nodded. Next, you will be divided into 8 teams. Chapter 46. It is impossible for a person to have both a Lamborghini and an inferiority complex. In the training room of Star Tower, Zuemo's figure sitting cross-legged floated in the air in front of him. The black divine book of darkness exudes dark energy. Zuemo closed his eyes and slowly opened them. The book of darkness turned into an afterimage and disappeared between his eyebrows, and at the same time, his floating figure fell back to the ground. It still feels a little bit worse. Zuemo sighed. After all, it is magic that can travel through the multiverse, so it is understandable that the requirements are higher in a flash. Zuemo had appeared in a two-story villa on the south shore of Death Island. The villa was just completed some time ago. Zuemo did not stay. When he returned to the villa, a space door slowly opened beside him. Then he stepped directly in. Arrive at the door of Tony's villa. Last night, Tony informed him that the armor had been built. Hi, Ms. Potts, long time no see. At the door of the villa, Zuemo saw Zyogio who was waiting for him. The last time I came here, I didn't see her. It's been a long time indeed. As the company's second largest shareholder, I don't come to the company once a month. It's really difficult for the two of us to meet. As soon as they met, they were met with complaints from Little Pepper. The company's two major shareholders, Tony, were away from work all day long, while Zuemo couldn't be seen for several months. All the affairs of the entire company fell on her. But I still have to thank you. After all, I get along pretty well with my current boss. I have no plans to change my boss yet. With that said, Zyogio led Zuemo upstairs with a smile on his face. You're welcome. If you are not happy with this position, remember to contact me at any time. Avril Lavigne also complained that one person is too busy. Poor Avril. It seems that the other party's situation is not much different from mine, you evil capitalists. While talking, the two walked into a room filled with various equipment. Hey, Pepper, it seems a little inappropriate to speak ill of us in front of me. Tony's figure walked out from behind a table, piled with parts. After hearing this, Pepper didn't pay attention to his complaint. You guys talk, bots, chuckled, turned and walked towards the coffee machine nearby. You've gone too far to poach my people in front of me. Looking at Pepper's back, Tony complained softly. Okay, next time I'll make an appointment with Pepper to talk in private. Seeing the corners of Zuemo's raised lips, Tony was defeated. Okay, we are dating. Please keep your distance from Pepper in the future. Although he knew that the other party was teasing him, caring would lead to chaos. He didn't feel that he had any advantage against Zuemo. Hearing the other party's admission, Zuemo smiled and patted the other party's shoulder. Don't worry, I'm not interested in Little Pepper. You'd better take me to see my armor as soon as possible. Hearing Zuemo's assurance, Tony breathed a sigh of relief. While leading him towards the inside, he muttered something softly. It better be this way. After a while, Tony led Zuemo to a glass showcase that was as tall as one person, pointing to a set of dark blue armor in the window. Based on the Mark IV, the battle armor has been transformed into a portable type according to your opinions. Let's see how it goes. As he spoke, the glass of the display window opened, and Tony pressed a certain position on the armor. The armor shrank for a while, and finally turned into a suitcase the size of a computer bag. Although part of the performance has been lost, the weight of the entire armor now does not exceed 30 kilograms. Tony introduced with a confident look. It seems to be looking good. Zuemo looked at the armor in the display window. Next, Tony introduced the various functions and weapons and equipment of the armor in detail. After listening to the other party's introduction, Zuemo showed a satisfied smile on his face. After Wanda put it on, it was enough to protect herself. Worst of all, with the suit's maximum flying speed of Mach 3, few enemies could catch up with him while he was escaping. Thank you. I'm very satisfied with the armor. In a villa in Brooklyn. Wanda and Pietro were packing their things ever since Wanda brought up the idea of going to school last time. Zuemo had already made arrangements quickly. In less than a week, it will be time for the university to start, and they need to move near the school in advance. Parking the car outside the villa, Zuemo just walked into the courtyard of the villa when Pietro's complaints came from the room. Wanda, you also know that I have no interest in going to school at all. Okay, Peter, you've been repeating this for nearly a month, and now the car to pick us up is almost here. You won't tell me that you regret it. Wanda sealed the last box and looked at Pietro seriously. Considering that Pietro and Wanda was the same age, Zuemo arranged for him to go to a school after consulting Wanda. But Pietro was obviously a little repelled by college life. No, well, of course not. I'm just a little nervous about the upcoming college life. That's right, I am nervous. Pietro tried his best to explain. Zuemo, who came forward, smiled after hearing this. Don't worry, Peter, I believe you will fall in love with college life soon. When they saw Zuemo coming in, their eyes lit up at the same time. Wanda even threw herself into his arms. Dear, I thought you had forgotten what happened today. After a few months of getting along, he has successfully become dear in Wanda's mouth. The relationship between the two is also heating up rapidly. Zuemo smiled and rubbed her head. How could I forget such an important thing? How is it? Have you packed it up? Wanda nodded and pointed to the pile of boxes that were almost piled up in the living room. Of course, it has been prepared long ago. Zuemo looked at the more than a dozen storage boxes on the ground. Didn't I say that you can buy things after you go there? There is no need to bring all these things over. Sure enough, women in any country are no different in this regard. Every time I go out, I want to move the whole house over there. No, these things are necessary items. Besides, it will waste time to go out and buy them after you go there. It's better to bring them directly over there. Okay. Zuemo nodded helplessly. The three of them walked out of the villa, and the moving company's vehicle that Avril helped to arrange happened to be parked outside the villa. At that moment, Wanda directed those people to start moving the things in the living room into the car. Zuemo took Pietro, who was only carrying a shoulder bag, to a Lamborghini sports car parked nearby. He casually threw the key in his hand to Pietro, who was staring at the car in a daze. Try it and see if you are satisfied. Pietro took the key subconsciously and looked at the bullfighting logo on the key. Only then did he gradually react, and even his breathing became a little faster. Wait, you mean this car is for me? Of course. Zuemo nodded. From past contacts, Pietro's personality is a bit different from that after awakening his ability. As an orphan since childhood, he has a bit of cowardice and inferiority in his heart. Although this personality began to gradually improve after he started practicing, he was still not confident enough at this time. The reason for giving the car was also to improve his personality. After all, one can't have both a Lamborghini and an inferiority complex. Chapter 47 Sonia. Although Pietro has been accustomed to all kinds of luxury things during this period of contact, but it was the first time for him to come into contact with a sports car after all. Zuemo had been tired of these things a few years ago, and the cars he was riding now were all business cars that were more comfortable and safe. For young people like Pietro who rarely come into contact with luxury cars, this kind of sports car can stimulate the hormones in their bodies. Excitedly walked forward and looked around the car. It's amazing. However, Pietro soon suppressed his excitement. This thing is too precious. I can't accept it. Zuemo, who had expected this, opened the car door and pushed the other party in directly. Don't worry, the car is lent to you, and this car is what I played with a few years ago. It will be covered in dust if it is thrown in the garage. This is just a waste of waste, or you don't like this one. Zuemo took out his mobile phone and opened the album. Then, take a look at which one you like. There are dozens more in the garage. When he was crazy about sports cars, Zuemo almost bought dozens of them crazily. Most of them were only driven once or twice, and some were not even driven once. Although Wanda directly helped Pietro made the decision to go to college, it was his own choice to go to which university. In order to get rid of Wanda's control, he did not choose to go to the same university as Wanda. Wanda went to a state university in Pennsylvania, while he chose Boston University. The two universities are located in opposite directions, about 3 or 4 hours drive from New York. Of course, there are many famous universities in New York, but under Zuemo's deliberate guidance, the two chose universities in other places, so that they could leave the dangerous city of New York in a natural way. Hearing Zuemo's words, Pietro hesitated for a while, and then did not refuse again. Okay, I like this one very much. Of course, it was mainly because he liked this car too much. The school's admission letter and the address of the residence are in the bag on the passenger seat. After entrusting the other party, Wanda also walked out of the villa. Seeing Pietro starting the car, she showed a warning smile on her face. I will visit you after the holiday. After hearing this, Pietro's face changed. Since he decided to go to school, he has been living in torment almost every day. Because after graduating from high school, the two of them dropped out of school and went out to work and they have almost forgotten 90% of what they learned in school. In order to avoid being like a foreign language after entering university. During this period, Wanda forced Pietro to study with her for 4 or 5 hours a day. Wanda said she was going to visit him, but she knew very well that her real purpose was to check his academic situation. Listen, Wanda, there is no need for this. I can take care of myself. That's it. Goodbye. After saying that, Pietro started the car directly, and after a deafening roar, Daniel disappeared from their sight. Watching the other person disappeared, Wanda turned and looked at Zuemo. Am I a little too strict with him? Of course not. You know, in our Tsar country, students study for more than 10 hours a day. You have been too lenient with him during this period. Between Wanda and Pietro, he naturally supported Wanda. Neither of them was too worried about Pietro's safety. More than half a month ago, Pietro was able to lift a car weighing more than a ton with his bare hands. He even broke the world sprint record when running. With his current strength, it would be good if he didn't threaten the safety of others. After sending Pietro away, all the things in the villa at the back were moved to the car. Then the two drove a red Ferrari and headed towards Pennsylvania. 4 hours later, the car drove into an elegant villa area. The entire villa area covers a very large area and is less than 10 minutes drive from the state university where Wanda is going. Soon, the car stopped in front of a 2-story villa. The villa is all white with a courtyard of more than 100 square meters. There are some bright flowers planted in the courtyard. The two got out of the car. How about it? If you are not satisfied with this one, there are several sets nearby. We can go and have a look. Thanks to the genes ingrained in the bones of the Chinese. Zuemo's parents were very keen on buying real estate when they were alive. Although the family property was less than 1/10 of the current one, they were also considered the top group of rich people in the United States. In addition to the sluggish real estate market during this period, his parents bought several properties in almost every major city in the United States. This is one of the properties they bought. Wanda shook her head with shining eyes. No need, this place is beautiful, just like my dream home. After that, Wanda stepped into the courtyard. At this time, with a creak, the door opened from the inside, and a woman who looked to be in her 20s walked out. The woman was about 1.6 meters tall, with long golden hair, a fair face, and a slightly plump figure, exuding a hormone that made men eager to move. Perhaps because the weather was too hot, the woman only wore a short-sleeved cotton t-shirt on her upper body. With the denim shorts underneath. She looked youthful and energetic. She looked outside the villa. Her eyes stayed on the red Ferrari for a moment, and finally fell on Zuemo. Ah. You the owner of the house. Hello, I'm Sonia Simonson, who was responsible for taking care of the villa before. You can call me Sonia. After she introduced herself, she stepped forward and shook hands with Zuemo. Your secretary Ms. Avril had called me before and said that you will come over in the next few days. Zuemo's parents bought too many properties. If they are not taken care of for a long time, these houses, most of which are wooden structures, will easily decay and be destroyed. Furthermore, in American law, if a house is left unattended for a long time and is occupied by homeless people, there will be disputes over the ownership of the house after the other party has lived there for a certain number of years. Therefore, his parents hired a local person to take care of each house. The salary for this job is not high, but the other party can temporarily live in the villa. Sonia in front of him is obviously in this situation. Follow me, both of you. Sonia led the two people to the villa. Looking at the tidy living room. Zuemo nodded secretly in his heart. It seems that the villa is well taken care of by the other party. While Zuemo went upstairs to look at the room, Sonia hesitated for a moment and pulled Wanda aside. Actually, I haven't found a suitable house yet, so. At this point, she continued to speak with an embarrassed face. I wonder if you can give me some more time to find a house. Don't worry, I will stay in the servant's room at night and will never disturb you two, and I can be responsible for the sanitation of the villa during this time. Chapter 48 The Witch in Armor. Sure, I know this request is a bit excessive. If it doesn't work, I can pay. Speaking of this. Sonia reacted suddenly, with a look of disbelief on her face. Originally she just had the attitude of giving it a try. This request seemed a bit excessive to her. After all, the other party had informed her a month ago, and she had time to look for a place to live. Unexpectedly, the owner of the house he had found earlier suddenly regretted it yesterday. She could only give it a try. What, you mean, you agreed? Wanda smiled and nodded. Of course, it's not just for these few days. You can stay here forever. My husband will not stay here. I will be the only one left in this villa, so I hope you can stay. After listening to Wanda's words, Sonia quickly thanked her. Thanks, but do you need to seek your husband's opinion? Although Wanda has agreed, she does not want to cause conflicts between the other two. Don't worry, my husband won't object. Despite saying this, Wanda still went upstairs and recounted her story to Zuemo. Of course I have no objection, Zuemo said indifferently. These house guards are all selected after strict review by the company. Otherwise, if you meet a rogue, it will obviously be very troublesome. So generally speaking, the character of these housekeepers is not too bad, which is the main reason why Zuemo agreed. If it was a stranger, he would reject it immediately. Wanda happily rewarded Zuemo. I knew you wouldn't refuse. Zuemo easily hugged the other party's waist. He felt that it was still necessary to chat with the other party. Although kindness is a virtue, being too kind often brings disaster to oneself. My dear, although it is a good thing to be helpful, I hope you will have to discuss this kind of things with me in the future. This Sonia is because I have her detailed information in the company, so I feel safe to keep her. If she is a stranger, it is very dangerous to live in the same house with her. It's very possible that the other party has some purpose. After listening to Zuemo's words, Wanda also realized that she seemed a little reckless. He nodded quickly. Well, I know it won't happen like this next time. She naturally understood that everything Zuemo said was for her own safety. Seeing the other party's frustrated expression, Zuemo reached out and stroked her head. Okay, just pay attention next time. Come on, eyelines take you to see something good. After going downstairs and saying hello to Sonia, the two walked out of the villa. After instructing the people from the moving company to move all the things in the car into the villa, Zuemo directly drove Wanda in his Ferrari towards a lake not far away on the map. Half an hour later, the car stopped at a remote location next to the lake. After turning off the car, Zuemo stretched out his right hand slightly, and a red box appeared in his hand. Open it and take a look. Zuemo handed the box to the other party's hand. When Wanda saw this, a smile appeared on her face. What makes it so mysterious? As she spoke, she opened the box in her hand, and a diamond ring appeared in the box. Wow. Wanda covered her mouth with a surprised smile on her face. What day is today, and why did you give me a ring? Zuemo did not answer, but took out the diamond ring from the box and helped the other person wear it on the ring finger of his left hand. Replace the original wedding ring. Then he took the other person's right hand without any explanation, squeezed a little blood from the tip of his index finger, and ripped it on the ring. Wait a minute, isn't this some Chinese witchcraft? Seeing Zuemo's series of strange actions, Wanda looked at him with confusion. Of course not. Zuemo glanced at her. Luckily she figured it out. As the blood dripped onto the ring seemed to be alive, absorbing the blood. Seeing this scene, Wanda had an incredible look on her face. But before she could ask Zuemo any questions, she felt a huge space point. Because he has not awakened, Wanda's mental power cannot be released. If he wants to use a storage ring, he can only use this method of bleeding. Wait, what is this? In an instant, a blue suitcase appeared in Wanda's hands. With a movement of her eyes, the suitcase disappeared into her hands. Oh my god, it's amazing. Next, Wanda had a lot of fun. Finally, he even put his hands on the car. The next moment, the car disappeared, and the two people sitting in the car suddenly sat on the ground. Because the seat height of the Ferrari itself was very low, just over half a meter above the ground, Zuemo did not move, and allowed their bodies to fall onto the soft grass. Sorry. Wanda apologized quickly. Zuemo waved his hand indifferently. How's it going? Do you like it? He shook the ring on his left hand. Of course, I like everything you give me. She was smart enough not to ask the other party about the origin of the ring, but she knew very well how precious it was. After hesitating for a moment, she stood on tiptoe with a red face and whispered a few words in Zuemo's ear. Zuemo was furious when he heard what the other party said. However, his efficiency in some aspects was far from that of Kansei. If he took the same way as the other party to relieve his anger, it was likely that the two of them would have to spend the night here. He did not forget the main purpose of coming here today. He ordered Wanda to take out the armor in the shape of a box from the ring. He guided Wanda to press the index finger of her right hand on a button in the middle of the box. In just 2 seconds, a female voice came from the box. The owner's identity has been bound. Do you want to activate the armor? After getting the armor, Zuemo first exchanged a control system similar to Jarvis in the mall. In the system, this kind of control system that is not even half intelligent can be exchanged for one with only 300 points. With Wanda's order, the armor was instantly decomposed, and then in less than 5 seconds, it was worn on Wanda. Wanda, who was completely wrapped in the armor, kept exclaiming. After more than 10 minutes, she calmed down under Zuemo's comfort. In the following time, Wanda began to practice controlling the armor to fly in the sky according to the guidance of the control system. At the beginning, she either crashed into a tree or plunged into the lake. Fortunately, the armor itself was a full body protection, which prevented her from receiving any damage. It was not until 2 hours later that she gradually mastered the flying skills. After controlling the armor to fly a few laps, Wanda landed in front of Zuemo. As the helmet opened, Wanda's face flushed with excitement was revealed. Okay, it's getting late, we should go back. Hearing Zuemo's words, Wanda reluctantly removed the armor, and the armor turned into a suitcase again, which she received in the storage ring. When you have time in the future, you can come here often to practice, so that you can protect yourself when you encounter any danger. Wanda moved forward and hugged Zuemo. Thank you. After saying that, Wanda showed an inexplicable smile on her face. The car that had disappeared before he appeared on the side, and she opened the door and pushed Zuemo in. A moment later, the Faraday shock absorber suffered the most severe test since it left the factory. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Psychic Master Promoted. Annie missing. In the training room of the Star Tower, Zuemo sat cross-legged in the air with his eyes closed. After staying in Bentleyford for 2 days and settling Wanda, Zuemo returned to the island of Death. In the Sea of Consciousness, the last trace of mental power was tempered and condensed with the operation of Forging God technique. As all the mental power was condensed, a huge shock came from the Sea of Consciousness. Finally, a large amount of mental power condensed towards the center of the Sea of Consciousness. The highly condensed mental power gradually transformed into liquid. After a while, a miniature water ball slowly formed in the Sea of Consciousness. At the moment the water ball was formed, the suction force suddenly increased, and the attracted mental power formed a huge vortex in the Sea of Consciousness. The size of the water ball also became larger and larger as the influx of mental power increased. Until more than half an hour later, the mental power in the Sea of Consciousness had been absorbed by the water ball. Zuemo knew that the remaining step was the most critical step to become a planetary mentalist. That is to compress the water ball extremely to form a solid planet-shaped crystal core. Condensate, Zuemo silently said in his heart, and then controlled the mental power that formed the water ball and suddenly shrank towards the middle point. Although it turned into liquid, these mental powers still belonged to Zuemo and were controlled by him. The volume of the water ball was extremely compressed in a very short time, shrinking to less than 1% of the original. Not enough. Zuemo gritted his teeth. The current compression level was still not enough to make it solid. Thinking of this, he took a breath. Use all your strength to squeeze the micro water ball again. Success or failure depends on this move. Boom. It Seemed that the critical point was reached at a certain moment, and the water ball solidified rapidly. Then it turned into a sky blue polygonal crystal. After the crystal was completely solidified, endless energy gushed out from it, and the consciousness space began to expand rapidly under this energy. In a few seconds, it expanded to hundreds of times the original size. At this moment, Zuemo's soul seemed to have completed a life transition. The brain also became unusually clear. Slowly opened his eyes. Crossing G's cheerful voice rang out in the training room. Congratulations, Master, on your promotion to a planetary spiritualist. As soon as she finished speaking, endless ribbons and flowers floated in the entire training room. These things disappeared directly after falling to the ground. Seeing Crossing G's scene, Zuemo was speechless. Who did you learn this from? On the internet. Master, isn't it like this when you celebrate in your world? Oh, by the way. Then, bottles of champagne appeared in the training room, and a series of boo and boo sounds rang out, and the training room was sprayed everywhere. Stop. Zuemo flashed outside the training room, looking at Crossing G standing opposite with a black face. Don't mess with me next time. Okay, Master, you must be tired of practicing. I'll help you rub your shoulders. As she said that, Crossing G walked behind Zuemo, put her hands on his shoulders, and gently rubbed them. At the same time, she also pressed her body directly against Zuemo's back. Feeling the other party's amazing talent, Zuemo suddenly felt a little overwhelmed. He had tried to fight back before, but every time the other party chose to escape at the critical moment. In short, Crossing G only stirs up the fire, not put it out. Zuemo, who was angry several times in a row, could only try to avoid the other party. Let's go. Feeling that Crossing G was doing this again, Zuemo decisively chose to leave the Star Tower. As soon as he returned outside, the phone rang. Pressing the answer button, Avril's voice came from the other side. Boss, Annie is in trouble. Hearing the other party's words, Zuemo's face changed. Among the girlfriends he has been dating for many years, Annie is the one who has been with him the longest. She has been his girlfriend since she was a student. However, Annie knows Zuemo's character very well, knowing that the other party will not hang on a tree, and her dream at that time was to become an actor. The two hit it off. One is greedy for money, and the other is greedy for sex. Zuemo helped her become the top movie star in Hollywood, and in return, she became Zuemo's girlfriend, not minding his fooling around outside. After a few years, it is impossible to say that there is no affection between the two. Avril also knew this, so she called him, even though she knew Zuemo was married to Wanda. Zuemo could not remain indifferent when he heard the news of the other party's accident from Avril. He learned that Annie suddenly disappeared during filming a few days ago. Annie's parents had already called the police at that time. But there is still no news about her. Zuemo hesitated for a moment, then found a number on his mobile phone and dialed it. After a while, the voice of Agent Hill came from inside. Zu, it seems that you are in trouble. I want to know about Annie. According to Zuemo's personality, he doesn't want to have too much contact with S.H.I.E.L.D. However, there is no way. If you say that the organization that knows everything that happens in the United States is the most well informed, it is naturally them. Zuemo also thought about how to establish an intelligence system. The most suitable way is to buy an intelligent life in the system. Not to mention intelligent life, even the semi-intelligent life defined by the system is several levels higher than Jarvis. If there is such a thing, the entire Earth's network will become his backyard. But unfortunately, even semi-intelligent life requires a full 60,000 points. For the time being, he has no way to redeem it. Of course, Crossing G in the Star Tower believes that it is easier to do this. But at present, with his current strength, there is no way to control the Star Tower. As the spirit of the Star Tower, Crossing G has no way to leave his sea of consciousness for now. He can only ask for help from S.H.I.E.L.D. again. S.H.I.E.L.D. After hanging up the phone, he'll hurry to Nick Fury's office. Since seeing Zuemo's ability last time, Zuemo's status in Nick Fury's heart has risen several levels. He specifically told Hill to report information about the other party at any time. After listening to Hill's report, Nick Fury did not show much surprise on his face. He casually handed a document in his hand to Hill. This is the information he wants. Hill's Expression moved. He took the document, opened it and took a look. You knew the other party would call? Yes, Nick. Fury showed an unfathomable expression on his face. I got a report about an incident this morning, and I have sent Natasha to protect her. This is a good opportunity to make friends with her. Chapter 50 Mutant Annie. 10 minutes later Zuemo received the information sent by Hill immediately on his mobile phone point. After reading the contents of the information, Zuemo waved his hand. A space door slowly opened to the side. Zuemo looked at his hands in surprise. Only after using this magic did he discover that, after being promoted to a planet-level spiritual master, although the total amount of spiritual power did not increase too much, the quality was several times higher than before. Casting magic is much easier than before. Open the properties panel. Name, Zuemo. Age, 20 years old. Strength, 1,425,320 kilograms. Speed, 1360 meters/s. Psychic power, 1,260,000 kilograms. Special ability, space freezing points, 23,420 points. Level, planetary level 1. The increase in mental power is about 20%. I wonder if I can successfully cast the dream walking technique now. Zuemo muttered. But now is not the time to think about this. We should save Annie first, and then talk about it. Thinking of this, he stepped into the portal in front of him. Florida. Palm Bay. In a hotel on a rundown street. Two figures stood in front of the window, looking at the scene on the street outside. After confirming that the enemy had not followed, the two sat down on the bed in the room. The two are the missing Annie and Natasha. A senior agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. What are those things, and why are they chasing me? Anne looked at Natasha opposite in shock. Natasha reloaded the gun in her hand and inserted it into the holster on her leg. That thing is called a sentry robot, and it's specially designed to capture mutants. After Annie heard this, she looked stunned. Don't humans already live in peace with mutants now? Why does this happen again? Do you believe what those politicians say? Natasha wiped the wound on her face and said casually, "Alright." Annie sat on the bed and stretched out her right hand gently. The water vapor in the air quickly gathered towards her fingertips, forming a large ice crystal in a moment. This mutant ability is simply amazing. The reason why she disappeared was that a few days ago she suddenly discovered that she had awakened the ability to condense ice out of thin air and was temporarily unable to control it, so she hid. During those 2 days, almost everything she touched would shatter into ice shards. I can't even contact my family. She finally controlled her abilities, but unexpectedly she was targeted by several robots who wanted to capture her. Fortunately, her ability was not weak, and at the critical moment, the person in front of her who claimed to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent saved her. I advise you to save some energy. Natasha got up and lay on the bed, admonishing her. The fastest support will arrive at night. During this time, we can only rely on ourselves. As soon as she finished speaking, her expression suddenly changed. He stood up and came to the door, looking out through the crack in the door. The hotel is located on the seaside, with the fence surrounding the backyard and the beach less than 100 meters away. At this time, on the beach, 3 sentry robots over 5 meters in length slowly landed from the air. No, leave quickly. Natasha hurried to the window and opened it. Follow me. After saying that, he jumped out of the window. Their room is located on the 2nd floor, only 3 or 4 meters from the ground. After Annie heard it, she quickly came to the window. Thanks to her experience in shooting action movies, she fell to the ground equally lightly. After landing, the 2 people didn't stop and got directly into a car on the side of the street. Then the car accelerated and drove towards the intersection. The robot located behind the hotel sounded an alarm. Traces of mutants found. Then 3 figures took off again. Thanks to the mutant detection device, the Sentinel robot captured Annie's figure in less than 2 minutes. At this time Natasha was driving the vehicle on the seaside road in the other direction. The 3 sentry robots did not care about passers-by, accelerated directly, landed in front of the car, and slammed their arms on the front hood of the car. The car almost flew up. The 2 people sitting in the car almost flew out of the car window when they decelerated instantly. Fortunately, seat belts do their job. After a while, The two of they got out of the car, rubbing the area where their seatbelts had been strangled. "Shit, I'm going to be strangled to death." Natasha sent a cordial greeting to the sentry robot. The sentry robot opposite did not react at all, but all its eyes fell on Anne. He walked towards her position. "Run." Natasha shouted to Annie, took out a special pistol from both sides of her thighs, and shot at the robot. The bullets hit the robot and all bounced away. It cannot cause any damage to them. However, her action attracted the attention of the sentry robot. "Come here quickly, you stupid guys." After shouting, Natasha ran in the other direction without looking back. She knew very well that the two of them alone were no match for these sentinel robots. She could only delay time and wait for rescue point. The three sentinel robots looked at the two people running in two directions and finally took separate actions. One chased towards Natasha's position point, the other two rushed towards any point. After all, catching mutants is their main responsibility point. Annie turned her head to look at the two sentinel robots that caught up with her and quickly turned around and ran towards the seaside point. The reason why the two chose to rest in the hotel by the sea was because of Annie's ability. She could condense ice in the void. She also needed enough water vapor in the air in the inland. It is very likely that she would drain the nearby water vapor once she released her ability point, but it was different at the seaside. This place was no doubt her home court, which could greatly improve her combat effectiveness. She had just run less than 50 meters, and the robot behind her was less than 5 meters away from her. Seeing this, Anna's eyes flashed with a hint of ice blue. The surrounding water vapor quickly condensed on the robots, and in less than 2 seconds, they turned into two ice sculptures. But before Annie could breathe a sigh of relief, a crack appeared on the two ice sculptures. Noticing this, Annie did not hesitate and activated her ability again. She drained all the water vapor within 100 meters around her. The thickness of the ice on the two sentinel robots had reached nearly 1 meter. Despite this, Annie did not take it lightly. She resisted the feeling of exhaustion and fled far away. On the other side. While running away, Natasha fired a few shots behind her from time to time to attract the hatred of the other party. Unlike Annie, she always chose some narrow paths. Although in the process, the sentinel robots made the buildings on both sides of the road unrecognizable. Pedestrians were also frightened and fled in all directions. But this made the other party unable to do anything to her for a while. However, Natasha, who escaped from a small path, looked at the three sentinel robots that appeared again in front of her, and her expression was stunned for a moment. No way. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.